Fuck it, start the show.
Parent of golden dreams, romance, auspicious queen of childish joys, who leads along in airy dance thy votive train of girls and boys. At length in spells no longer bound, I break the fetters of my youth, no more I tread thy mystic round, but leave thy realms for those of truth. What art thou that beckons me? For horror I fear a trapped animal. Fear not, little creature. I am here to unburden you from thy entrapment.
Message received. Waking crew from cryosleep.
Top of the morning, my fellow carbon-based human life forms. It's me, totally human Jonathan, your friend. I am awake now as well.
Jonathan's a goddamn robot.
I hope they sent in my warranty card.
Get off my ship, bitch.
I think we're okay.
This is fucking great, man! Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? This is some pretty real shit now, man! Game over, man! Game over!
Crew extremely expendable.
Welcome back to Region Free for March 2025. This is a double digits show. We're into episode 10. Who thought we'd make it this long?
We live
For a while.
I've already convinced the chat that something happened to Orc inadvertently. So if you're joining late, Orc is fine.
Is he?
Is he?
He lives. He lives.
He's not here on the stream.
No, but he's out there. He's out there in the cosmos, and he's doing well.
Who's watching him though? I mean, we're supposed to take turns. That was the whole deal.
Who's not here?
I mean, yes, it's Jonathan.
They're on a side mission.
I think you're giving us way too much credit. I think we can handle one thing, kind of. Hope everyone's doing well. The weather is turning. I am yet to see green starting to sprout up, which green is my least favorite color, but I do like plants. It's a weird thing. But I did go out and buy this year's goji plants and gooseberry plants. So hopefully I'll get the garden going. So my massive goji tree will have a couple new friends to join it. Also, I had the first visit from the bear. So apparently the wildlife have awaken. I don't know. They're awake. They're no longer asleep. So clearly, at least in New Jersey, we're starting to get our shit together. How about you guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's warming up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's warming up, but like we get like storms because it's been that weird up and down. But I think we're like officially warm now. That is terrifying, Lauren. Like that sleeps next to your car.
Not all the time.
Huge.
Black bear.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Every once in a while. The problem is that I'll go out there in the morning. It's too dark, and I'll walk right by him, and I'll just hear him, and I just dart into the car.
Damn.
I mean,
There's some bear mace, huh?
No, he's very chill. I mean, he's never caused a problem besides spilling some garbage and taking down some feeders. But no, I don't. I think he's okay. There's a female bear as well that lives in the park, and she sometimes comes through. She makes a little bit more noise. She doesn't sleep on the yard. She just walks through. She's just looking for food.
I just don't want Werner Herzog telling us that we need to destroy the audio.
It's okay.
Gotta be careful.
Listen, we get a lot more eyes on this show if I just get eaten by a bear.
But you have to make sure that you do it live.
Yeah.
It's not really something you can plan.
I know.
I do have a video about a grow-a-gator if you can watch for that, though.
You can have an animatronic, sacrifice some drywall, just come in there. We can make it work.
The bear,
you gotta exploit it. Get them numbers.
The bear's gonna pull a Shockmaster and fall over the fucking 2x4 at the bottom of the drywall.
Right into the Jason X prop.
Yes.
That's pretty small. I think the bear would ignore it entirely. So what do you guys got going on? Anyone seen anything or excited for anything? Or have you been all in a coma? What's going on?
Coma.
I'm out of the coma. I've been watching a lot of movies as per usual. I'm past the Oscar shit though, so now it's like at least I'm not watching like 10 things a day and feeling like a zombie. But there's one I know we'll talk about here in a second, but I've got Opus and Novocaine tomorrow. So I'm excited about those, but I did see the first truly great movie, I think, of the year, Rule of Jenny Penn, which, guys, I know it's towards the end of its theatrical run, which isn't long, but I really hope people embrace this movie and go see it. And if you can't, it will be on Shudder eventually, but god damn, was that a punch to the heart.
Right, Dan, is that the one you mentioned on Instagram?
Yeah.
What's the premise of that? Can you, without giving too much away?
So Jeffrey Rush plays this judge who has a stroke, and he ends up in this assisted care facility, and he finds out in this facility that there is a psychopath who is a patient played by John Lithgow. That alone sold me. I didn't even have to know what the movie was. Just Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow. I'm in. But horrors of aging, some of the most tense stuff you've ever seen. It's not a gore movie. It's not an evil puppet movie. If people have seen like The Puppet, don't go in expecting Annabelle. That's not what this is. But it is just a psychological battle between two masters of acting. I mean, it's tense, it's wonderful. I'd recommend it to just about anybody, and that's all you really need to know. But it hits you in the feels. I mean, it's real world horror. I mean, probably
I've gotten to the point where I don't want to know. I don't want to see trailers. And,
yeah. The coolest thing about this is it's not a plot-driven film. So
no, not really.
It's not something you really can spoil unless you tell us. Unless you explain like the final 5 scenes, you can't spoil anything in this movie. The setup,
like surrealism in a way.
No, well, I mean, there's a little in it, but for a very specific reason. But no, it's the thing about this movie, and I'm going to disagree with Dan on one point. Although before we went on the air, we both declared it our favorite film of the year so far.
Mm-hmm.
Not that's been real competitive up to this point, but it's easily on top for both of us. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. If you want horror that makes you laugh and you can and puff out your chest and feel great about the world and laugh at Freddy's jokes, this ain't it.
No.
if you thought that something like Hereditary was, a bit too serious and dark, you don't want to go near this. This thing is 5 times darker than that. I'm not saying it's a better film, but I am saying it's 5 times darker. Because the thing is, it's a film about the loss of dignity, human dignity at the end of your life. That's what the themes are.
Yeah.
And it goes there. And it doesn't pull the punches. And it makes you feel. I'll just say there's a scene, and it's, again, this, you can't spoil it. Because you're going to feel it when it happens.
Before you say it, is my favorite scene, and I don't know if it's the same, when the Tony character tries to stand up to him and he can't.
No, but that's a great scene.
Great scene. Yeah, just the way it's like, and it's so heartbreaking. It got Pugs. If you watch our show, like Pugs is not one that you're going to hit in the feels very often, and this one managed to do it.
It's a scene where the two main characters are sitting across from each other at a dinner table, and Lithgow just kicks Jeffrey Rush, and it's not even a particularly violent thing. It's just in the condition that Jeffrey Rush is in, it's excruciating.
Yeah,
and it's hard to watch these characters get abused. Yeah. Some of the abuse crosses lines. There's a lot of underpinnings. The opening scene in the courtrooms, what that scene is about, is very important for what follows. The thematics are pitch dark, and it doesn't have moments of levity. It has a few moments that have that make you feel unexpected things. There's a kind of a thing that happens in the movie which feels very much like a side story almost. It's horrifically tragic, but it has a bit of gallows humor to it. But it's such a dark gallows humor. It's an amazing film, and really you should. But, and I mean this, if you don't like the dark stuff, the stuff that's going to disturb you, if you want fun horror and that's what you live for, you do not want to see this movie, because you're going to hate it. It's going to disturb you. You're probably going to come up upset. And here's my final warning to you. If you have been close to dementia or Alzheimer's in your lifetime, if you were ever the primary caregiver of anyone at the end of their life,
maybe wait.
Be careful. Make sure you can handle this.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to pull the punches, and you're not going to be able to put it in a corner and say, well, yeah, but that's just a supernatural horror movie. It's not those things. This is the real deal. This is what horror really is. A lot of the times, the fun stuff like People Under the Stairs, that's not really horror. This is really horror. It's part of the horror genre.
Yeah.
But it's not horror.
Yeah, that's one of the most terrifying things. I mean, dementia for anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you had me there completely right up until you said that dementia thing, because I looked after my mother in the last years of her life, and she's terrible, what she went through. But I probably will watch it though. I'll give it a go.
Oh yeah.
Just go in knowing that you're going to be put through some stuff.
Right. I'm going to watch it, get upset, and then be mad at you.
Clear.
It is. I mean, like you said, I mean, what he does, and even just the simple stuff when he's kicking him and he can't do anything about it, it's just so hard to watch it. It's again not a gore film. This is not like John Lithgow removing fingernails.
Well, I'm convinced. I mean, it's brainwashed you two to preach the gospel of the film.
Yeah.
Now I got to see what this shit's about. So,
yeah. I think you guys will. I think you guys will enjoy it. Like I said, if you're having a downer kind of day, like give it a minute. Don't.
I thought you were going to recommend it if you're having a downer day.
No.
I'm always having a downer day, but this helps.
Again, not an evil puppet movie, and I think some people might think that's what this is. That's not what this is. It's not Annabelle.
Good. Don't need another one.
Honestly, I don't think all movies should be like this. As much as I might enjoy that, I don't think all horror movies should be like this. But I think it's important every once in a while to get one.
Yeah.
To continue to center the genre back to kind of more serious takes, so that it can't be dismissed quite as easily. I don't know if people really remember, and a lot of people have fuzzy memories of this because they were having a fun time in their life. But the late '80s got really silly with the genre. and it forced horror to go into basically hibernation for 6 years at the beginning of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a price to pay when it gets silly. But when things are serious and once we're exploring real-world issues, we tend to do better. The Exorcist, revitalized horror in a big way in the early 70s because it went after real subject matter. And I'm not even talking about Catholicism. The Shining. Films that take the genre seriously, I think they do more good than not. I'm not saying that everything should be that, though. I like my silly horror, too.
Yeah. No, I mean, we need something, though, that's just a gut punch every once in a while. We need that Hereditary. We need that Rule of Jenny Penn. And again, this is one. It's real world horror. Like, somebody has or will be sort of touched by this movie at some point. Like, you can relate to it at some point. So, and John Lithgow is almost 80. That guy is a force of nature.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Blowout, Dirk, you mentioned Ricochet before, Cliffhanger, all these great villainous performances, yet he's still the funny alien in Third Rock from the Sun.
I mean,
yeah,
one of his best performances, Dexter season 4.
Yeah, Trinity.
Yeah.
Dude, Buckaroo Banzai all the way.
Oh.
I think he easily outacts William Shatner in the Twilight Zone remake.
Yeah.
The Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Oh, yeah.
On the plane.
Yeah, that is a class. That's a childhood favorite for sure. Yeah.
I want to, how Cannibal Holocaust has the cruelty-free version of that movie, of Cannibal Holocaust?
Mm-hmm.
I think Twilight Zone needs the John Landis free version.
Oh.
So I can go back and enjoy what I enjoy from that movie.
Man, when John Landis eventually kicks the bucket, you're going to have the best day.
Oh, my God, right?
I feel like you need to do that deep dive. I know I know you're not a fan of him, but I don't think you've ever done a John Landis breakdown segment. And if people have read your books, there is a
Right. So, Lorne, do you still watch American Werewolf in London?
I was never that big of a fan of it to begin with, so I haven't watched it in many, many, many years. I'm a Howling guy all the way through. If you're going to talk about that battle,
okay.
John Sayles, the man, and I think a lot of people. I think a lot of what the Howling does, people don't quite get, because it is kind of wrapped up in this kind of fairy tale thing once they get to the village, but it's a really, really tight film, and there aren't a lot of great werewolf movies. I'll just say this: like, there's a lot more shitty ones than good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Howling is kind of perfect for what it is, and American Werewolf has good stuff in it. It does, but I'm always baffled when people think it's perfect, because that movie has startling pacing issues.
I think it's like an American against a UK type thing, because all the people in the UK prefer American Werewolf in London.
Oh, I think
most of my American friends are all hailing.
Yeah, I prefer American Werewolf.
Oh, so you get the odd couple, but I find the majority, it goes that way. Hailing I like. I watched the Hailing.
Howling's my number 2.
Yeah. And then some of the sequels of that, just get absolutely preposterous.
Yeah, my sister's a werewolf. It's great.
The line dancing werewolf in part 7. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't do sequels to American Werewolf, to be honest.
Oh, but they did.
American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah, you got Paris, and that, let's not even talk about that.
Is that unofficial though, or it wasn't official?
It is unofficial.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'll have to. I've heard about it. I've never checked it out though.
Apparently, Scott.
Apparently, they were very serious about if Paris had been a hit. Every few years, there would be an American Werewolf in a different city.
Okay.
But we never got that American Werewolf in Amsterdam, so there we are.
I want to see an American Werewolf in Tijuana.
It'd be great. American Werewolf in a place where it has the shortest nights. So he has to get everything done fast.
30 days of night. Yeah.
Hey, did they go about with the sequel then? Because it's pretty much done and dusted, isn't it? At the end of American Werewolf in London.
There's like a character reference that kind of ties them
together.
Don't
exist.
Oh, okay.
I don't even remember exactly what it was, but yeah, there is a.
I remember the heavy CGI, and no thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the bigger problem is I thought the design of the werewolf was just atrocious, which is a common problem, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of great werewolf designs out there.
But that's all I remember of it, though, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There we go.
Well, they put it on the fucking cover, just like, hey, let's take our worst looking designed werewolf and make that part central to our marketing campaign. I don't know. Even when I see a werewolf movie that I like, I tend to be like, can we make this thing look like it's a real animal at some point? Can that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Howling pretty much gets it. That the shot where the werewolf just stands up in the doctor's office, that's my favorite image of a werewolf on film.
Okay.
So, because that's what I always thought this should look like. In the
I love
era.
the theater in American Werewolf, though. That's iconic. Just
I get it.
Was the Wessler? Shit, I can't remember.
I think his transformation is one of the best as well.
Right.
Where you can actually see the pain on his face.
Yeah,
I know I'm going to
all done in the light.
Special effects reel. It doesn't have any. No. Could they should have like hired someone to light the freaking scene so it matched the rest of the movie?
I can see that. I mean,
it bothers me so much.
I'm the odd man out. I'm the Waldemar Daninsky guy. I'm Paul Naschy when it comes to werewolves. All the way.
Naschy's cool.
Okay, yeah.
Let's talk about Werewolf Woman.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I love those movies. I love American Werewolf in London. I really do. But Waldemar Daninsky, I think, is where it's at for me. I don't know why in particular. I just always.
And speaking on werewolves, we need a good. And so I know Louisiana is one of the topics tonight. We need a good Rougarou.
Yeah. I think there's a Supernatural episode, if I'm not mistaken, that does tackle that.
Yeah, the dog man or the wolf man, but it's just the head and the man body.
Yeah,
running through the fucking swamp. But,
that couldn't have been inspired by alcohol or drugs at all. Okay. Well, before we get to our first actual real topic, now that we've pumped so much propaganda for Jenny Penn into your heads,
yes.
Let's do this.
Wait for it.
I don't see anything.
That's why I just told you to wait for it.
I'm not seeing anything either. Is this like one of those magic eye illusions from the 90s?
Lord, give me strength. And there, my friends, it is.
It went boom. What went boom?
That was the main terraforming processing hub. It's something technobabbly important sounding. And it just blew up and sent lots of particles of medical jargon up into the atmosphere.
That seems baddish.
Well, that depends. If you're a radiation absorbing xenomorph, it's probably like the best Chinese buffet restaurant in the world just open for business.
Yummy.
If, however, you're a human being within 2,000 square miles of the explosion, it means that you'll die in about 7 hours when the entire planet instantly retroflashes into random particles.
So no general toes?
I think what he's saying is that we've had our last poo-poo platter.
Hey guys, we miss anything?
I was just telling the others that we're all going to die.
Been there, done that. What else you got for us?
Lauren, something about animated you. We need to do Westworld with you in the Yul Brynner role. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just any bald guy could sit in for May, really. That's how this works. I don't have to be very specific. Jonathan's the hard one, believe it or not. His facial features are like impossible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just impossible.
I see a putty tat.
Yes, she's one with sharp claws from the European calico here.
Aww.
All right, so Dan, you had an idea for a segment about some creepy crawlies that get really, really big. So why don't you introduce the segment?
So we're going to talk giant ants tonight. A couple movies in particular. There are a few. I could go with Dead Ant.
That's what I watched. That was, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, like, I kind of left, like, I was like, I think somebody's going to find Dead Ant, so I didn't even rewatch it, but I'll leave that one to you. That gem of cinema, the Tom Arnold, Jake Busey classic.
Tom Arnold doing some heavy lifting. Anyway,
Yeah.
please continue.
But in particular, two films that kind of stand out, I think, in the giant ant genre are Them from 1954, which is the OG killer ant movie, and Empire of the Ants, which came a little bit later. But I mean, I guess we have to kick it off with Them since that started it all. And it was based on an original story by George Worthington Yates, who was the nephew of the Republic Pictures head Herbert Yates, and it had a lot of issues. Like the movie was originally planned as a 3D color movie, but there were problems, and that didn't end up happening, to say the least. A lot of tidbits in this. So there's a pre-Star Trek Leonard Nimoy that has a small role. This movie made history in multiple ways. I mean, it was kind of the standout killer bug movie that really launched that genre. And Walt Disney, for example, he was casting for his Davy Crockett series. He watched this movie to see James Arness, who everybody wanted for the role, but it was Fess Parker, who was in a tiny little cameo as a mental patient, and he got that. But luckily for James Arness, John Wayne was impressed by him and successfully lobbied to get him cast as Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke, which, if you guys are unaware, I mean, that's one of the biggest series of all time. Gunsmoke was, he did that for over 20 years, I believe. And James Arness, of course, was already an icon for Thing from Another World, playing the monster. But so this movie for me, one of the early monster movies that I saw. It always stood out. I don't know what it was in particular that got me about it. Maybe it was those trips to Disney, the Sci-Fi Cafe. They'd always, play clips from it. But I think it was really the noise of the ants. Because you go back and watch this, it's a proper horror movie. It really is. I think it holds up. Seeing actual ant props, and it's just a wonderful movie. Certain things borrowed from it later on. It came off the success of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and they really wanted to strike while the iron was hot. And I think this ended up being something that, for me, goes down in history as one of the greatest monster movies ever made. And again, ironically, because it was a troubled production, it was a huge hit. And I'm curious to get your guys' opinions. It could have been a very different movie. Believe it or not, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were considered.
That'd have been true. Yeah.
What do you guys think about Them? Because it was important in my childhood. Not that I'm that fucking old, but I did grow up.
You, Dan.
Well, this one predates us all. Yeah. So
those guys might as well do Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla.
Was there any first-time watches for you guys? I mean, I know it's a popular movie, but it's not necessarily something everybody's seen. I mean, did it make an impression on any of you?
No, I've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. It's just not my thing, Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of them things. The big giant bug movies, the radioactive, never hit with me. Godzilla back in the day, I kind of got with that a little bit when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
I'm kind of with you too, because I don't really get into the big creature movies, like something like a small creature becomes big. Mostly because it's like special effects usually aren't up to par.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this movie in
breaking our hearts.
And I thought of Eight-Legged Freaks when you said that.
Like, I have an autographed Eight-Legged Freaks poster, so that's
by Ellery Elkayam or
David Arquette.
Oh, David Arquette.
To go there, like in the like thinking about it, that would be terrifying as shit. But it just never worked for me. I don't know.
I mean, it's not a real world fear, but you know, there is something to it. My dad worked at Hanford, and there are unusually large, unnatural bugs out there on the site. So there's something to it. I've never run into an ant like that, fortunately, but I mean, this was a huge hit for Warner Brothers in 1954, and it's a movie. I love it. I'll tag Lorne in because I know this wasn't going to be for everybody, but I do love my giant.
Well, wait. Before I speak, because you know what's going to happen here. You're talking Golden Age horror. What do you think is going to happen if you hand it to me? Aaron, you have something to say on this one?
I've never seen them. I did watch another two ones. Unfortunately, I didn't see them, and I watched the other two. I don't know if you want me to mention them now. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
So the first one I watched was Ants. It happened at Lakewood Manor.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, this is just crazy. I had a lot of fun with this one. So you've got these two construction workers, and they get buried alive on site outside this hotel, obviously. You've got Linda Day George. She's in this. She plays the daughter of the owner of where it all takes place. It just gets so funnier and funnier as it goes on, because the threat of ants early on is just like a normal, you know, you see them on the floor, just like a normal everyday life, and it just seems to like just go and go. As the film goes on, they kind of get more and more kind of, you know, more of a, you know, what I'm trying to say. They get more and more intimidating as it goes. But the first scene early on, it made me laugh as well. So you've got this young boy, Tommy, and he's like trying to find all these bottles, you know, empty bottles to sell. So he goes in skip diving, and then he gets covered in ants. He comes out of the skip and he's covered in ants. He goes running into the swimming pool. I was dying laughing at this point. You've got the cook as well. He gets kind of bombarded by ants. Again, what you would just call, you know, just a normal everyday swarm seems to be like killing people. You got this smart ass scientist as well, and he comes to the conclusion that fire will kill the ants. And even comes to an even more absurd conclusion later on when he says they all got to stay still, and apparently the ants won't affect you if you stay still. You've got a woman getting rescued by the fire brigade, and she's hanging like 100 feet in the air. And at this point, I'm thinking I'd rather chance it with the ants than you know, go flying through the air at that kind of height. But yeah, overall, I think, yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, it's not my thing, like Dirk and like Sam said. I don't think they're really my thing. But this one, yeah, it was just kind of entertaining. And I can mention the second one quickly as well. Was Empire of the Ants with John Collins.
That's the one I checked out.
Yeah.
This one is crazy as well, man. So yeah, this is loosely based on a H.G. Wells 1905 short story of the same name. It starts off with this narrator, and they're saying like, "Hey, ants, you know, are formidable. They could become the next formidable thing on this planet." But you've got the blatant Jaws rip-off theme. You've got the ant POV shots, which is just crazy. I think Joan Collins is quoted as saying this was a piece of shit, which
I
wasn't wrong.
He's typecast, right?
Right, yeah.
I met her and had her sign a poster.
Okay.
She was like, "You like this?"
Yeah, I like Empire of the Ants better than them. I gotta say.
Oh no, it's enjoyable. You know, you've got the woman from Halloween 2. I think it's Pamela Susan Shue. She plays kind of the eye candy. And you've also got the one scene, you know, minor spoiler, but where this guy, he's trying to get it on, with this young woman. And then in the end, he kind of sacrifices his wife to the ants. He's got every chance to go and, fight off the ants to save her, and he just leaves her there and goes. So
that's the chick from Halloween 2, right? The nurse.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But no, it's a lot to like, in this one. The whole bizarre ending. I mean, I don't know what you guys, if you want to give things away, but
I mean, it come out the year I was born, so why not? Let's go with
this whole town is like, oh man, you got to watch it with that sugar refinery, and it just goes so absurd. Right, jumps onto another level. Then for the last 15 minutes. No, I enjoyed it. Yeah. I enjoyed the two of them. Like I say, not my thing. I don't think I'm going to go back to them anytime soon, but I'm glad I've seen them.
How wild is it that up until very recently, Burt Gordon was still walking the earth at over 100 years old? Yeah. One of the last of his era. And I mean, at this time, AIP kind of had that H.G. Wells run. I mean, they had Food of the Gods in 76, also from Gordon, and then Island of Dr. Moreau in 77.
That's like an unofficial trilogy, right?
Yeah, the Wells trilogy. And I mean, I've got a lot of things I could pick at. Island of Dr. Moreau is something that they got right early and never again.
I prefer the Val Kilmer and Brando version.
Over 77?
No, I'm fucking with you, man.
Yeah, what I was like, there's no one.
Well, I mean, 77's not great either, to be fair.
No, look,
Island of
Lost Souls is
the
way to go. I mean, Lugosi as the keeper of the law. I mean,
Island of the Fishmen. Let's go with that.
Martino's awesome, but I mean, come on.
I prefer the documentary to the Richard Stanley film.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
the documentary is fun. At least
the
movie. The problem with that 90s film is that, in theory, it should be a great hate watch, but it's not. It's just bad. It's not fun bad. It's not even cringe bad. It's just like, what am I putting myself through?
I want to do that Marlon Brando ice bucket on the head costume one year. I agree though. Watch Lost Soul
into the theater with you,
Yeah.
You ever heard that story?
Oh man, that doc is insane. I mean, there is actual footage of Richard Stanley as a beast creature, like right there. Like he sneaks back on set.
Yeah.
That's one of the best all-time movie documentaries ever made.
Oh, yeah.
It is just insane. But you have this artist that gets this job, that a corporate job at the end of the day. I mean, this is a big budget movie. They were hoping for big returns, and just seeing that clash and the doc, the doc gives the other side. I mean, the producer, it's like this dude showing up talking about shamans and like all this shit. Like we got a lot of money on the line, dude.
I think it's just one of those cases where there's too many strong opinions about film, and we were no longer in the era of the auteur filmmaker.
No,
whereas you'd have one person with a vision and everyone would get behind that person. Everyone wanted to do their own thing, absolutely everyone, and nothing came together. But you also feel like the film feels hopelessly unfinished. Like they gave up on that thing at some point and just went, fuck it. Did we string the scenes together? We're done.
Yeah.
Because they know there was no pulling this thing into a cohesive whole.
It was just a checklist of everything that could go wrong on a movie.
What was the deal with Brandon and that little guy as well? He wouldn't do any other scenes unless he was in there.
He just declared it on set. It was supposed to be the German actor whose name's escaping me at the moment, but he was supposed to sort of be like the right-hand man, but then Brando's like, I want him in every shot. And they had to at one point, that actor, which if you want to see him, watch Rat Man, that's an experience.
Right.
At one point, I think the actor said to him, was like, oh, how's your day going? And he just punched him in the balls.
What?
For no reason. Like, you watch that doc, for no reason. It's just like he just like, shut up, and then he just punches him in the balls. Like
now it makes sense why that little person inspired Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's true.
Lost Soul is an all-time classic. Island of Dr. Moreau is not, but the story behind that movie, yeah, go watch Lost Soul.
I have something to say on them real quick. My mother, who was born in 1944, actually saw them in the theater. She was 9 years old, and my grandfather had taken her to the theater to see it. And even though she was never a big horror person, she did thought it was really cool. And yes, the ants did scare her. And to be fair, it did get a Oscar nomination for the effects, but it lost to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with the giant squid and everything. I didn't see them until I was writing for DVD Verdict about 15 years ago. Warner Brothers had put it out in a quartet DVD set with their hit The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which is the movie they wanted to capitalize on when they did them, actually. And then a couple of other MGM features on that set. And the one thing that stuck out at me when I saw them for the first time was that there was this sequence with this archival footage where it was talking about these two ants that have been fighting for about like 96 hours or something because over a female. Now imagine if those ants were our size. Oh, we'd be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
We would so be screwed. The climax in the LA sewers is awesome.
Oh my
I mean, them is one of the best 50s science fiction films, to be perfectly honest. I think it's great. Empire of the Ants I saw probably in high school on television. And look, Joan Collins was a gilf back then. Look, I have seen the film she did right after Empire of the Ants called The Stud and The Bitch, right before she did Dynasty. Look, even she's not worth me sitting through Empire of the Ants again. I mean, if you liked Empire of the Ants, that's cool. But I just remember the effects being so laughably bad. I mean, when the effects in them look better than Empire of the Ants, I mean, just... Oh, one more thing before I let Lorne talk about them is just as a little aside, my parents, they actually met on a blind date in 1964.
Did they recover their sight later?
Yeah, no. They met on a blind date in 1962, and they went to go to the drive-in, and they saw a film. I shit you not. The title is actually Journey to the Seventh Planet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they did anal on a first date. So, yeah.
Wow.
That went a place. I'm not sure if I need to talk. I think I might be good.
I think today is also the anniversary of the discovery of Uranus.
Oh.
Congratulations, we found Uranus.
I should have hashtagged that.
If it is, that's going to be hilarious. Don't tell me today is the day that Uranus was
I think
discovered.
it might be, maybe, unless I'm wrong, which is also possible. I saw something on the news blurbs.
We have to find whether this is true or not before we move on. This is not something we can leave in the air.
William Herschel observed Uranus on March 13th, 1781 from the garden of his house at 19 New King Street in Bath, Somerset, England.
Uranus discovered in your neck of the woods, Darren.
Yeah,
there you go. Them also inspired Lorne's favorite movie of all time because, I mean, if it sounds familiar, Little Girl Survivor, the flamethrower scene, there's quite a bit.
Fuck yourself, Dan.
I think you prefer them, though.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So them is kind of like a fascinating film because when we talk about like the giant bug wave movies in the 50s, irradiated regular creatures that grow to enormous sizes, people tend to point to Godzilla, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate example of it. And that's really fair. Godzilla was an attempt by an occupied Japan, still occupied Japan, to present their side of what it was like to face nuclear apocalypse on the ground level. There's images in the original Godzilla that are just heartbreakingly authentic feeling towards the Japanese experience, the original film, not the endless sequels. But here's the thing, like, America didn't have that same perspective. So when we started tackling a similar theme in the science fiction / horror genre at the time, Them is a perfect example of what our answer to that question was. The idea from American point of view is about nuclear proliferation. So you take things that are very minor problems in our world today, but if any of them were to be nuclear powers tomorrow, say your North Korea, as it turned out, happened, suddenly it's a much outsized problem. So something that was previously going to spoil your lunch, your picnic lunch, now might destroy the world. And even the films that don't explicitly make it about nuclear fuel or radiation, there's this undercurrent that is just thematically always present. And it's part of that time period, that retro future look of all of 1950s stuff, where we're on the edge of a new reality, whereas the world was going to open up and all the innovations that we were promised by the Industrial Revolution were about to come into the household. They were out there, but they hadn't made it into your house yet. Televisions are coming into houses in the 50s. People are starting to see mass communication change. Suddenly we're learning about places in the world that we really didn't know existed as a layman. Geopolitics finally are mattering in a way that they had never mattered in the certainly in the pre-war period. But again, keep in mind, this is 9 years after the end of World War II. We are a lot close. That's a blink of an eye, right?
Yeah, we had just left Japan basically when that movie was made.
Yeah. So, like, as this year we're going to trod right into the 50th anniversary of Jaws, right? We are 50 years away from Jaws. They were 9 years away from Hiroshima. You have to realize how important this subject was, and it was getting filtered down into pop entertainment, not just in the sci-fi horror world, everywhere, really. But of the artifacts of that time, very few have really survived to have any relevance today. But God damn it, Them does. And all those giant bug movies do. I mean, my favorite of that whole wave is The Monster That Challenged the World. If you haven't seen The Monster That Challenged the World, you need to fucking watch that movie, because it is just, it's one of those pitch perfect movies of its time. And there, you don't even have to worry about whether the special effects hold up, because, spoilers, those special effects hold the fuck up. It's just one of the best monster films of the golden era, or I guess practically the silver era, I guess, if we're going to consider 30s and 40s to be golden. I think that this wave of movies taken as a whole, not the individual films, represents an important movement in horror that too often gets overlooked because it's not the universal monster era, and it's not the 1970s, it's not the 1980s wave. And that's a little bit sad, because there is a lot of great 50s horror. I love them. I think there's a lot of great stuff in it. I think mostly the movie holds up really well. And where it doesn't hold up, it still hits all the right nostalgic notes for me from the films that I watched on a small black and white television upstairs in my house on a Saturday afternoon off a UHF station. There's a value to that, to me, that I hope that there's a generation that grew up in the early 2000s watching sci-fi originals, and then you're going to have those same feelings about that generation's killer shark movies and giant boa constrictor movies. I'm not going to feel that way about those movies. You're probably not going to, but I think there's some younger people who probably will in time. And I think we shouldn't be so cynical as to just discount it. I love them. I love that whole movement. Not all of them are great films. This one I would defend. That's it. I'm done.
Are we closing on Dead Ant?
Unfortunately.
The Tom Arnold, Disney Sweetie.
my god,
Sam, the floor is yours because you can tell it better than me.
I did start to watch Ants on a Plane, but I wasn't gonna go there.
Damn, I could have seen Ants on a Plane. Oh.
Yeah.
That might have been a better choice. I don't know. I like Dead Ant is because, but it's also still like I just saw Heart Eyes and it's very much the same comedy horror vibe. And I couldn't help but think, this movie would be pretty badass if they had just like left out the comedy angle. Because like I feel like it's written pretty well. There's some issues with the plot, but we'll get to that. But it's like Tom Arnold is doing heavy fucking lifting. Jake Busey's chewing the scenery too. And so basically like, it's about this group called Sonic Grave that they're supposed to be trying to like revitalize their career. And they're going to be playing at Coachella. At least they think it's Coachella until their manager, Tom Arnold, is like, actually, it's Nochella because we couldn't get to Coachella. But so they're all going to do peyote in the desert to, write a new song before them. So they go and they get it. And apparently this is like some super special peyote. And so the guy that gives it to him, the indigenous man, he says, okay, like, have fun with this, but, don't cause any harm. So apparently everybody who's dropped this peyote has fucking stepped on an ant and then they become giant ants because of this magical peyote curse. Like, I thought that they were hallucinating it, but no, the indigenous man and his little person compatriot is just like, they both see it. They both see the ants getting exponentially bigger because every time you kill one, they get bigger. So, and I'm just sitting here like, and they're only stepping on ants. Nobody's ever stepped on a snake this whole fucking time. Nothing. There's nothing out in the desert except ants. There's scorpions. Anyway, so it's like the movie is fun, and like if you had just gotten better special effects for the ants, maybe just because they're all fucking N64 ants. That's what they look like. But there is one there, but the thing is, there's also this one part where the first guy to die. I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin this for y'all. The first guy to die is like the bassist, as you do, and it does. And so, the ant, he's tripping balls already, but this ant says, "I'm going to make it rain blood," and it's like, okay, I thought he was hallucinating that, but then later on, when all the other ants keep getting bigger every time you kill one, I'm like, wait, could they also talk?
You're in the spirit world now.
I know. I just it's just goofy. It's fine, but it's nothing that's really gonna stick with you. So
Empire of the Ants gets pretty trippy too. So
I like the pheromone scene at the end. It's
yeah,
pheromone indoctrination. Yeah.
Yes.
Sam, when you said the bassist dies first, I was waiting for the Metallica joke to drop from one of us. Sorry, like
I feel like bassists are always the butt of every like horror movie that has like a band in it, though, right?
Right.
I imagine. Yeah. But yeah, so Dead Ant.
Dead Ant.
It's Dead Ant. Dead Ant. Dead Ant. Dead Ant. Dead Ant. That's how you got the name of the fucking movie. When they're just fucking around killing ants. And they start doing it to the Pink Panther theme. Okay, guys.
I think we've expired this topic now.
But written and directed by another Carlson, somehow. That was weird. I'm not related to him, though.
So Sydney Sweeney can't even save that film?
She was actually fine in it. It was like, oh, look, there she is. And then she got eaten by an ant at some point.
She did B movies for a while. Sydney Sweeney's been around longer than people realize. She's tangled with.
She's a fine little actress.
Yeah, she's tangled with inbred cannibals, giant ants. Like she did it all before she made it.
Well, that's what you got to do.
Oh my god, it's transmorphosized. The demon-spawned creature that grew inside me has now taken its final form.
Oh, Daniel Schein, you don't seem impressed with your son's growth. That's okay, he's not very fond of you or your fellow humans. He's 100 times as formidable as the other aliens and 1,000 times as intelligent. You see, Daniel, I chose you to be his host for a reason. He's inherited all of your encyclopedic knowledge of horror movies. He knows how you'll try to survive. He'll anticipate all of the survival methods you've learned from your years of watching trashy cinema.
Don't use my powers against me, Karen, I'm warning you.
Warning me? Your son is headed to your friends right now. He'll kill them first before turning his rage on you, the father who never wanted him.
Karen, you fucking bitch.
I love the little hat. It's so perfect. I didn't notice that before.
It's got my taste.
So big wheels keep on turning. We're talking about horror from the Big Easy in celebration of some holiday that someone invented to sell greeting cards or something. Sam.
Yes.
Take us through the Big NO.
Well, I'm probably not, seeing as how I don't actually live in Louisiana, I'm probably not the best person to start this off, but
that's probably true, but I didn't think that far.
I'm just saying. But you know, since I have to bounce out here pretty soon anyway, I wanted to do specifically like Louisiana horror because I found a movie on Tubi called The Savage Bees from 1976, and it was Killer Bees Attack Mardi Gras. And I was like, okay, I absolutely have to go and suggest this for Region Free because I will absolutely need to use this for it. So, although, you know, I do like The Reaping from 2007, so that one's also Louisiana-centric. Anyway, Savage Bees, everybody needs to go, like, watch it because this is a made-for-TV movie. They used over 100,000 bees for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but so it has, like, the best horror setup I've seen in such a long time, which it's like, there's like this ship that's, you know, got freight on it, right? Apparently there's a bunch of bees in a box. It just caught a ride.
Where do you think bees come from, Sam?
I know. So it crashes, they fly out, they start roaming around Louisiana, and they sting this dog to death, right? And the sheriff of this local parish, he finds his dog dead. And he's like, well, time to take my dog down to New Orleans to get an autopsy for it. Okay, sure. Abuse your privileges, sheriff. I don't care. But it's great because his wife's like, you're going down to New Orleans during Mardi Gras? And I'm like, that's the correct response. Absolutely not. But yeah, like, yeah, I got to go get a dog autopsy. And so, you know, eventually it unfolds.
Dogtopsy.
Yeah.
Did the dead dog get any beads?
No beads, but lots of bees, because apparently there were bees in his stomach. And yeah. So they're, you know, we figured it out. Okay, great. They're bees. They're killer bees. Only, you know, unfortunately, because these are Africanized bees, they keep referring to the bees as the Africans. That's not what we can't do that anymore, guys. Can't do it, okay?
I'm pretty sure we can.
Mardi Gras.
Talk about bees here, people.
Africans.
Yeah, I was just like, oh God, I can get this movie canceled. So, you know, there are some standout moments though. Like this couple, they're on their way to Mardi Gras and they see a food truck on the side of the road and they're hungry, so they get out. Unfortunately, one of our heroes is inside that food truck in like this really like industrial, like beekeeper type suit. And because he's trying to put a false queen in with the hive. And right now the bees have taken up residence in that food truck. So these two people, they come up and they want to get some food. And it's like, oh no, it's full of bees, which is just kind of like, you know, the movie in general. It's like, oh no, this is full of bees. Oh no, that's full of bees. Yeah. So, You know, and it's great because they're dressed like pirates. So there's a scene where you just see one guy who's dressed as a pirate with his foam sword trying to knock the bees away. And then you've got the other guy in the industrial, like, beekeeper type suit, and he looks like an alien. So it's like, I'm not sure what I'm watching. But I think one of my favorite way that they get rid of the bees, because you can go watch it. It won't, like, I'm really not going to ruin the movie for you that much. But they get rid of the bees by, I guess, attracting them to a Volkswagen Bug. And this woman is like driving down with all of the bees covering the car. And she drives it into the Louisiana Superdome so they can lower the temperature of the Superdome to like under 45 degrees. And then the bees just fall off. And that's the movie. It's I have never seen anything like this. It was great. I would recommend. I'm low-key obsessed with it now.
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I was going to say The Beyond is the ultimate Louisiana horror film. I think that wins it now.
Also, if you go watch it on Tubi, it even has shitty tracking because it came off some kind of VHS rip, but it'll make you feel like it's like you just rented it from Blockbuster.
I think there's only I think VHS is as far as it ever got. So I don't think there's a better version.
Imagine it's on DVD somewhere. That would be crazy.
I don't think it is, though.
Oh no,
I'm a big fan of 70s and 80s TV movies in the genre, and
we're missing
very few of them have been given the proper treatment. I don't think The Savage Bees ever has.
Yeah, that's going to be like the real like lost media when everything's said and done.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great TV horror movies that are not out.
Well, they were shot on 16, cheap, fast, dirty. Truthfully, most industrial outfits were tasked with completing after principal photography on the cheap. There's no surviving elements in a lot of cases. There was no archiving this stuff. They were meant to be broadcast. Some of it exists only on 1/4-inch video cassette.
It's a huge list. Like, I mean, a lot of them are already kind of forgotten to time, but I mean, 70s and 80s, the stuff that we do have, I mean, a lot of those horror movies stand up to their big budget counterparts. Like, there are some good ones.
There's some amazing television, and we've covered them on the show before, but there are some really, really amazing TV movie of the week productions. Yeah. Because you used to be able to make films cheap enough to actually pay for them with a good broadcast premiere.
I'm still waiting for Don't Go to Sleep. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, I love Don't Go to Sleep. The pizza cutter is the best murder weapon ever.
It's a great film. I don't know why someone don't, try whether the elements of that.
So bad as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't aged real well, I'll be honest with you, because I watched it maybe like a year ago. But as a kid, the dead sister with the pizza cutter. Oh my God, fuck you. That's awful. I love it. If you haven't seen it, you need to do yourself a favor and see it. It really is. It is.
They got the elements for Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, though, haven't they? So I would imagine some of them you can get.
Well, the Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was internationally released as a theatrical. So a little bit. It had release prints out there. Don't go to sleep, man. That's a big one.
I love that film.
A proper. I mean, I know we're getting Satan's Triangle finally cleaned up, but I'm worried about what that's really going to look like. There's a lot of great ones, though.
The Savage Bees is available on DVD courtesy of Cheesy Flicks Entertainment, but the sequel actually got a Blu-ray release, Terror Out of the Sky with Dan Haggerty, courtesy of Kino Lorber.
It came out with Ants at the same time, actually.
Oh.
I have to go and see the sequel, absolutely. My gosh. Well, I'm going to go bounce for the night. Thank you for letting me get that out of my system. Like, anybody that I've had a chance to tell about the Savage Bees.
Definitely got to check it out. if they go in the Superdome,
proselytizing
gotta see what that's about.
Yeah. We all have a good night.
You have a good one, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Dirk, I guess we should have started with you anyway, but let's hear it.
All right. I got a couple. I did something kind of outside the box a little bit. So you got American Horror Story season 3, The Coven, right?
Yeah.
So watch the entire season, and it's got some characters in there that are legends. They got some shit wrong. There is a film that needs to be made from the Axeman murder, the Axeman in New Orleans, the true story of the Axeman. He warned the city of New Orleans. He wrote a letter to the Times-Picayune. Everyone needs to play jazz, or you're gonna get murdered tonight. So all the homes in New Orleans are blaring jazz music, so nobody died on that night. But he crept through the back door. He chiseled a panel out of the back door and murdered people with their own axe, left the axe, and slit their throats. And he claimed he was a demon from the hottest hell. And still to this day, they never found him. So anyway, like I said, I'm coming outside the box a little bit. But I'm hoping that this movie gets made. And it takes place in 1918, 1919. There was like 12 victims. I think he killed 8 people, though. But never, it's unsolved to this day, cold case. But, and then they go on to Marie Laveau. They got her looking like this evil, crazy person. And she's not that at all. She was trying to help people. She was a hairdresser for rich white women, and she was getting their secrets and blackmailing their ass, and changing court cases, all kind of shit. But no, let's see. And then you got Marie Delphine Lalaurie, which it's like one of the most haunted homes in New Orleans. 1140 Royal Street in New Orleans. She was a sadomasochist. I mean, she had slaves and she tortured them. So pretty much that show's accurate on her, what she did. But they found her out because there was a house fire, and they found all the victims in the attic. Horrible mutilations, and people's mouths were sewed shut with shit in them, and just it was pretty foul shit. But no, the movie I did want to talk about tonight is Alligator People from 1959.
Good pick.
Starring Beverly Garland. Super low budget sci-fi action. I'd say sci-fi action horror. I don't know. It's all three, but directed by Roy Delruth. In Louisiana Swamp Country band. Lon Chaney Jr.'s in it. It's got some crazy shit going on in here. So this woman Jane, she's given sodium is that how you say it? Pentothal or whatever, to make her remember her memories. And she's on a train, just got married, and she's trying to remember where her husband went because he's lost. And it's some bad shit with Lon Chaney Jr. There's a scene where he's, he saves her from some snakes and shit, and then he starts to sexually assault her, and then this alligator man comes in, beats the shit out of him. It's all over the place. But I was kind of bringing that up because Commander USA was my go-to. From 85 to 89 is when he was on the USA Network. And that's how I watched a lot of these crazy ass movies back in the day. They introduced me to most of them. So I seen The Boogeyman for the first time. on there. 1980, the TV cut. The Children, Alone in the Dark, 1982. Let's see, Samson versus the Vampire Women. It's a batshit one too. Classic cheesy Mexican gothic, like Mexican wrestler versus gothic vampires and shit. Women. It's
Star Trek versus the Vampire Woman.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Yeah. But no, man, Commander USA, he never gets mentioned. Always, Joe Bob Briggs gets mentioned out the ass. Even Vampira gets a lot of love. Elvira, of course. Svengoolie, how you say it?
Svengoolie, who's still doing it too,
Right.
which is wild.
Yeah, but Commander USA was like, man, I was part of the damn fan club and everything, like shit, back in the day. But he had some great shit. Might not hold up as well today, but what does he say? Oh, there you are. He said, "Holy cats" all the time. He'd say, "Soren superhero here, Legion of Decency retired," and just shit like that. But anyway, I'm kind of going in nostalgia, but Alligator.
Well, I miss that era, and we do kind of only talk about Joe Bob Briggs and Elvira, who I love, but yeah, there were a lot more.
Listen, the Philly horror host was Stella, the man eater from Manayunk. Her show was called Saturday Night Dead, and it was on after Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I know there's a shit ton of them, but that's the one I always got to see. Was the Commander. But
well, the Commander, I think the thing with the Commander is it wasn't purely genre. That's why I think kind of it gets overlooked by the horror community a bit too much.
Yeah, he had a lot of mixture in there. Yeah. But that's where I seen Peter Cushing for the first time, Blood Beast, Terror, shit like that. Christopher Lee, bunch of shit, So, but yeah, I kind of went into a tirade with the Louisiana thing. But no, man,
that's the most
American Horror Story Coven. What's that?
That's the most Louisiana thing you could have done, though.
Right? Yeah, the X-Man definitely. X-Man in New Orleans. That's some kind of scary shit. Like if you read into that case, that'd be a great movie, a great film. I don't know why it hadn't been made. So,
yeah, there's a lot of true crime stuff that's kind of unmined, and I don't know why. We always go back to like Bundy and Gacy and these people that we kind of everybody knows.
It's kind of aggravating too. So, like, I don't know if anybody picked Skeleton Key. Did anybody pick that?
No,
I was going to bring it up, but I didn't rewatch it. But yeah, okay. Skeleton Key is a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll give Skeleton Key that it did Get Out before Get Out did it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like Get Out straight stole from that movie. But Papa Legba is not that either. Like Papa Legba is like this spirit, this Aloha spirit that the voodoo people celebrate and they worship or whatever. He's not evil. He's not a sinister like he's portrayed in American Horror Story either. He's a protector, and he's known to have like all these dogs around him and shit. But anyway, I'm gonna quit ranting, man. Somebody else take the floor.
No, I love it. And Alligator People is also perfect drive-in fare.
Yeah.
I'm glad you picked it. It's
1959, man. So
yeah, that is on Blu-ray, by the way. So that is one that looks good and people can check it out.
It is on YouTube with Commander USA hosting it as well.
Oh, awesome! Awesome.
So.
Yeah.
And I wasn't gonna pick I mean, I could go on and on about the Beyond, but who wants to do that? We've done that. We've talked about the Beyond.
Yeah.
I love the movie. It is my favorite Louisiana horror film. Period.
I mean, yeah, it is sort of the king.
It's kind of a given, but I didn't want to do that tonight. So.
Darren, do you have?
Yeah, I've got.
Because you're about as far from Louisiana as it can get. So let's.
Exactly. Yeah. But I've got to. Yeah, I tried to pick. Well, one of them might like be a horror, but tell me what you think on my second one. But the first one I got is, and I mean this is just a cheesy slasher. You've got Maintenance Top Motel Massacre. I don't know if the glare there.
It's a fun movie though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Satan.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, but and I will say so. What? So this was filmed in Shreveport, Louisiana, in the fall of 1982.
Yeah.
It sat on the shelf for a while. I think New World Pictures brought it out 3 or 4 years later, and they had to reshoot the whole ending and put more gore into it. But you've got a story of Evelyn. She's released from this mental hospital, where she's, previously she's like accidentally killed her daughter. Her daughter's into all this occult shit and all that. You've got a backstory of that. Heavily influenced by Psycho, as you can tell from the storyline. So she opens up this motel. She's got all these like pet snakes and rats, and you've got all these different characters on this one night. They go to this motel. You've got this one sleazy guy, and he pretends to be like a record owning a record company, so he can get these 2 young girls into bed. But it's exactly what you think, but to me, it's more than a slasher because it does something towards the end, which I won't. I won't spoil for people, but it goes like in a supernatural way. In terms of like the music and all that, it's just really eerie, really creepy. It's always been for me. It's not like your kind of slasher you can just throw on in the background, I think this one's got a little bit more to it, but yeah, I enjoy the hell out of that one. Second one I've got
definitely a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of
the title don't make sense to me. I was telling Darren that too. I was like, that title don't make sense for here in Louisiana. It's all flat land. There's no mountains around here. So
yeah,
I
think they added the massacre to the title as well. New line. I think it was motel, Maintenance Top Motel at one point. Yeah. Tell me what you guys think of this, because I think it's a horror. Yeah. You may not. Southern Comfort.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So this is set in Louisiana in 1973. You've got a bunch of like this sexist, racist kind of men, and they're in like the Louisiana National Guard, and they go on this maneuver. They come across these Cajuns. They nick their canoes, pinch their canoes, and then all hell kind of breaks loose. For me, I think very much in, and everyone said it before, very much in the same vein as Deliverance. Reminds me a lot of a slasher film called Rituals, which came out in the 70s. It plays very much like a slasher film as well, where you've got the men kind of dropping one by one, getting picked off, or in some ways they're engineering their own downfall. And the real horror is from within, I feel, with this film, because, they get themselves into all these sorts of situations. None of them pull together. They're all infighting against themselves, which ultimately, has their downfall. But Walter Hill has played down the fact that this was kind of a metaphor for the Vietnam War. But, if you see it, it definitely is. And I think it influenced Predator as well, just by the look. But for me, it ended up a flop. It was $7.5 million budgeted, and he only made 2.9 back.
Yeah,
I just think it's a creepy one. I think it's definitely a horror film. And I guess all you guys have seen it,
yeah. Very good edition of that out as well. So
I need to upgrade.
I've always kind of considered it like a thriller, but I don't know.
It's a
I can see that as well. Yeah. I mean, would you call Deliverance a horror?
No,
I don't think you would you, Dirk?
No.
But there's horrific things in that film that I think qualifies it, or certainly.
I definitely wouldn't want some things that happened in that to happen to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's it's not. I mean, there's some horrifying things, but it's not like I don't know. To me, it's not a horror. That's just my opinion.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I understand.
Scared Lorne off.
Yeah. We're like pig.
Gutted like a pig. Gutted like a pig.
Yeah, that's one of those movies I talk a lot about, like imagining yourself at the time, just going out to the movies. The Exorcist hit hard, obviously Frankenstein for the audience at that time. I'm sure like Deliverance is like, oh boy, we're going here. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't see that one coming, Grandma.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, the Stone, because I know Stone's been in the military, haven't you?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on Southern Comfort? Did you like it? I know it's only the National
I've
Guard,
never
but...
seen it, sad to say.
Okay.
I missed it, unfortunately. Yeah.
I would recommend.
Walter Hill directed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Walter Hill. I got to see it.
Warriors as well. Yeah.
Well, I got the Warriors right behind me here.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I thought you might. Yeah, you might have seen it, but I would recommend it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Lauren's working on getting back in.
So should I go ahead with my two? And
yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got a couple of Louisiana horrors, and I saw The Skeleton Key a few years ago. I thought about returning to that. I was like, but okay. Of course, a lot of people recognize the name RKO Radio Pictures, which unfortunately went pretty much defunct in the late 50s. Although and in the 40s, two of their biggest films were actually Cat People and The Curse of the Cat People, both produced by Val Lewton. Well, many years later, in the early 1980s, RKO was trying to get back into theaters. They had produced a few films like The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and stuff like that. And so they hired Paul Schrader to direct a remake of Cat People, but he decided to go in the direction of like body heat and like inject a lot of eroticism and a lot of skin into Cat People. And look, I mean, when I rented it from the library when I was a teenager, I was just, I was happy to see Natasha Kinski and
that's all you needed.
Annette O'Toole. Oh my God, that poster for Cat People with Natasha Kinski in the rain. I mean, it's like the poster is practically begging you to come before you enter the theater. Seriously.
I remember the MTV video though back in the day. Hall & Oates, was it Maneater? That song, Maneater, for the film. So she was all through that. I mean, it was like, holy shit, what is this? But,
Oh yeah. And I'm a huge Malcolm McDowell fan. Also, I think the Paul Schrader remake gets a little bit of a bad rap by purists who prefer the Val Lewton originals. I mean, I think it's really well done. I mean, I also love the fact that instead of you can't train leopards apparently. So what they did was they took cougars and dyed them black so they could serve as the panthers.
Oh shit!
Not the whole thing, but it's set in New Orleans. Believe it or not, I think it's like dripping with atmosphere. To be perfectly honest, so check out the remake of Cat People if you haven't.
I always dug it, man. Yeah.
I mean,
and I've seen so many people hate on that movie, and I don't.
Why? I don't Paul Schrader did a perfectly fine job with it, I thought.
Yeah.
But the other one I want to talk about is another remake. Believe it or not, the original film was shot and set in the state of Connecticut, but the remake was set in Louisiana, and that, of course, is the "I Spit on Your Grave" remake, which
oh shit.
Yeah, look. Let me say, when I first saw the movie back in 2010, I had already seen the original, several times. I have it here somewhere. I'd seen the original several times already. I'd listened to the Joe Bob Briggs commentaries, and this new version, apparently, they decided to add a sheriff to explain how the law enforcement is compromised and everything. And basically, he serves as like the ringleader, whereas in the original, Johnny was the ringleader who had raped this writer in the woods. But in the remake, they decided to take away Jennifer's point of view. And so it set up this interesting dynamic where they think they leave her for dead. She falls into a swamp. And then we don't see her until she starts stalking and killing each of the rapists, which is a massive turn from the original, where we actually focused on her recovery and actually focused on how traumatized she is and how she recovers through that through violence, basically. The remake, I think it works on several levels, but I also think that, taking away the point of view was a massive miscalculation. And so it doesn't really, it just kind of blends in with all the other horror remakes of the 2000s and the 2010s. There's nothing really distinctive about it. I mean, sure, I liked it when the guys eventually got killed in kind of creative ways, like she puts salmon in one guy's eyes and like these birds come and pluck his eyes out and shit like that. I mean, it does go for the gore. It goes for the jugular, I guess, but it just doesn't have near the same impact as the original. And I would say the only one of that trilogy that's worth seeing of the newer I Spit on Your Grave trilogy is actually the third one, which, believe it or not, is the only I Spit on Your Grave movie that doesn't have any rape in it.
I haven't seen that one.
I guess the revenge there is.
It's all about revenge. Oh, she nearly gets raped again. They don't let it happen this time, but yeah.
No, I'm talking the hammer to the asshole bit. I guess if you want to be technical.
Boom.
Yeah, pretty.
But I thought I Spit on Your Grave 2010 was okay. I didn't think it was near as good as the original. What did you guys think of the remake? Real quick.
I didn't hate it when I seen it. I mean, it's fine. It's pretty decent. I mean, it's not like you said. It's not going to compare to Camille Keaton original. But yeah,
it's intense.
I've never seen it. Like,
yeah, they don't phone it in. I mean, I will give that movie.
Yeah,
it hits kind of hard. It does hit kind of hard. Some of those scenes. But
is there a 20-minute rape scene like the original though, or is it obviously cut down? Oh, it's still pretty
intense. Yeah,
not as long, but it's I mean, they don't shy away from it. Yeah, it's
they
pretty.
Don't shy away. Yeah.
It's great performance. Sarah Butler's fantastic in that.
I agree.
And I like the third one too. The second one takes that weird detour into Bulgaria, I believe, and it doesn't work quite as good. But I Spit on Your Grave Deja Vu, the sequel to the original.
That is you had one person say that's good.
That I far prefer.
2.5 hours, and there's just random shots of weeds that we focus on.
That's the original director, right?
Original director too, Mir.
Mir Zarki.
Also kind of exposes Camille Keaton because she's fantastic and I Spit on Your Grave, but not the best actress in the world when
I mean, Solange, and what have they done to Solange? I love that movie. So.
But not a lot of dialogue. That's the thing.
No, it's physical acting.
Yeah.
That whole box set though in Italy, all those films I like. Tragic Ceremony, she does really good in that one.
Sex of the Witch.
Yeah. Well, not so much like that one, but she's pretty good in it. Yeah.
Magdalena, is that the other one?
I like that one.
Yeah.
I think it's Madeline. Is it Madeline? Yeah.
Magdalene. Okay.
There you go. That's a good set.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I always felt bad for her because I saw her at Chiller a lot, and man, did she have some weird questions from fans. Like just
I can imagine. Yeah.
Just people like, why would you ask her that? It's so cringy.
I don't think I've gotten over two of you kind of putting over the Cat People remake, so I can't even discuss I Spit on Your Grave.
Really? I knew you were dying inside.
What does that mean? Am I wrong?
Fuck the Paul Schrader movie. It's fucking awful. It looks like an MTV video. The original incredible noir-looking horror film that relies on suspense and character.
The original
building.
is better.
It's fucking elegant and beautiful and perfect, and like the fucking shitty David Bowie video that masquerade as
it's
a
nostalgia
fucking feature film that you guys are putting over. It's so bad. The best way to watch that movie is just the clips that are in Terror in the Aisles. Ignore the rest of it.
Okay.
Fuck that movie. Fuck it. Call it something else and I'm not angry at it. But you call it Cat People, now you're treading on sacred territory to me. But yeah, I spit on your grave. You know, I've never seen any of those remakes or that Deja Vu film.
Well, don't watch Deja Vu.
I've heard the Deja Vu is pretty rough.
You know, the thing is, I like the original. I spit quite a lot. But I kind of have my fill of that with just the one movie.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I'm going to gain more from watching more of it. There's about 1 million real cheap ripoffs of it, like the Savage Vengeance 7 or something, right? But I never had a desire to go to them either. I like the original film a lot. I think I'm good. But as far as Louisiana horror, and by the way, I literally wrote on my notes, it says, everyone's going to talk too much about the Beyond. And then there's a parenthesis that says, except when someone brings up the fucking Cat People remake, changing locale from New York to New Orleans. So I'm getting myself some psychic points here. But the film I want to talk about is one that's not going to come up from anyone else. It's a film that
mine will either.
Centered in the Gulf of Louisiana, and it is a brilliant little film from a great director who left us after only 2 films, Mr. David Ellis. It is Shark Night 3D.
Oh, okay.
David Ellis made Shark Night 3D after making Final Destination 2, you know, the great Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
It has a lot of the same energy. And for like a dumb shark eat 'em up film, it's fucking great. And maybe Louisiana doesn't play a huge role in it, but I'm just going to use any opportunity whatsoever I can talk about this movie because I think it needs a real cult following that it does not have. David Ellis, I really believe if had he lived, would be a guy we'd be talking about as one of the next generations of great horror directors. He had style, he had his own viewpoints, he had his own sense of humor, but the humor didn't distract from the tense stuff. He could pull out good performances, even in small, very small roles. Take it next time you watch Final Destination 2, ignore the deaths for a second and watch how much character is in all those characters, even if they only have 2 scenes. It's remarkable how much he cared. Because I'm going to tell you, most female filmmakers we just wouldn't have. We're making a film where we're introducing a bunch of people to kill them off.
Yeah.
So we're going to get them from point A to B with as little dialogue as possible. But every one of those characters is distinct. And Shark Night 3D is not as successful than that because it's a lot more younger people, which, you know, the pitfall that falls into. But it's still really much better than the average. And while it's The Shallows, which I would consider the best modern shark film, you know, it's probably runner-up. It has some real chaotic energy in its final act that I think I'd be proud to say that was mine. So
I don't know why that one was ignored so much. It just feels like it had a theatrical release, but
the 3D wave was waning, and everyone was kind of just dismissing everything as gimmick films.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
I really wish he lived because I really would love to have seen what he would have done. He also was a guy, he'd do franchise picks, but he'd also do just flavor of the month picks. He was down for whatever, but he would bring more to it. And if that sounds familiar, it's because, hey, we're going to talk about the Beyond too much, right? Because Lucio Fulci would do what he could make, but then he'd bring everything to it.
Yeah.
David Ellis was that kind of director. I wish we got more from him.
I mean, you listen to any podcast on the Final Destination films, and 2 tends to be the favorite for a lot of people. And to this day, that movie, anytime I'm behind a truck with a bunch of logs, like it's like I flashback to that movie.
I'll tell you what, I dare you to try and watch 5 minutes of either of his films, horror films. I dare you to just watch 5 and turn it off. You're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
He was a real talent. And
he was.
Sadly,
I wasn't expecting that from Lorne, to be honest. That's took me a bit by surprise, but I'll definitely check it out just by what you said.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah. I thought you might have picked Cat and the Canary, maybe.
That's what I was thinking too.
The 43 film? Yeah. I mean,
I thought for sure you was picking that one.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Louisiana, there's a lot. Like when you deep dive into, I mean, it's kind of the perfect setting.
I do have one more, but I'm gonna wait till Dan.
Okay.
That's okay.
No worries. So I have one that blaxploitation hasn't come up too much on Region Free. At some point, I'm definitely going to do the Blackula movies, but
are you going there?
Possibly.
Do Crack House. Yeah.
We do need to do Crack House.
We have to do Crack House so much. That we got to do something special for Crack House, though.
Yeah, we'll do something special for Crack House. So 1976, director Arthur Marks, JD's Revenge. This is an AIP film. Its original shooting title was The Killing Floor, and it's also known as The Reincarnation of J.D. Walker. And this film is essentially about this man, Isaac, who gets possessed by this 1940s gangster. And it's one of these movies that is shockingly good. It's again, I think people hear blaxploitation and they think schlock. You know, a lot of these movies aren't as respected as they should be. I mean, Blackula, look, you hear that title, you kind of laugh. Blackula is a damn good movie. I like Blackula a lot.
What's his name? The guy playing Blackula?
William Marshall.
He's the best thing about it. Everybody around him is like he's like a real serious Shakespearean type actor, you know?
And he is. He's very memorable. JD's Revenge is something that's very special. Number one, Glenn Thurman, who plays Isaac, and I mean, essentially JD as well, being possessed. If you don't know the name Glenn Thurman, this man's still active. I mean, he's been making movies for over 50 years now, and has been in big stuff, small stuff, everything in between. This guy is just a fantastic actor, and he was coming off of a movie called Cooley High, which was a huge hit for AIP. So they were kind of trying to figure him into something big. And Arthur Marks had a 3-picture deal. Friday Foster, this, and I believe Monkey Hustle was the third one. And this is just a stellar movie. Like, you don't talk about the great performances of a Fred the Hammer Williamson, but you know, I mean, he's fantastic.
He is, man, and everything.
He is. Yeah, he's the Hammer. He's awesome. But Glenn Thurman, here we are with this next level performance in a movie that really doesn't get talked about a lot. And it's not a typical blaxploitation film. Lots of issues with this. Arkoff had his issues with the movie, and you know, there was a lot of fighting back and forth, but as it stands, this is one of the better possession movies ever made. I mean, it's a ride, and it's tense. It's not at all cheesy. Maybe that's part of the issue. I mean, I love all of the, you know, more cheesy blaxploitation films, and you know, certainly I'm not going to argue Blackenstein is high art.
How about Abby?
Abby, yeah, I love Abby.
Abby, third act Abby is great stuff. I'm going to argue that the first two are slow.
Yeah, that's true. And I love this genre, but this is that one, like, it never really comes up as, you know, some of the best examples, but it's surprisingly serious. I mean, this isn't like some cheesy body count movie or anything like that. I mean, he's genuinely intimidating. Not a large guy, but he morphs into this terrifying gangster. And the scenes with his girlfriend where he changes his look, his hair color, and everything. He is amazing in this movie. He's been on my list of someone I'd like to meet at some point. Unfortunately, don't think he's ever done, the convention circuit, but I really always wanted to tell him how good he was. And there are some moments where there is some humor where he's having sex with this lady, and her husband comes home and he just looks at him and is like, "That's right, I fucked your woman." The way he delivers the line is just like, wow. And
gotcha, bitch.
It's so good. It's so good. And nobody talks about this movie. Arrow did put it out on Blu-ray, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago now, something like that. So it is out there. You can pick it up. And yeah, I love it. I rewatched it again a few days ago, and I don't know. Lauren, I know you've seen it. Have any of you guys gotten to check out JD's Revenge?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, you'll have to change that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'll
Not
enjoy
exactly what you think it is.
No, it's not.
No.
To a lot of horror fans out there, Glenn Turman played the high school teacher in Gremlins, where he gets one of the Mogwais and eats his sandwich and then eats him later. Puts the hypodermic needle in his ass.
If you look at his filmography, I mean, again, just one of those actors, you may not know the name, but my God, you have to know the work. And this director made some fantastic movies: Bucktown, Friday Foster, Bonnie's Kids. I mean, if you're love Bonnie's Kids, Detroit 9000, Linda Lovelace for President. But this is definitely in contention for his best movie. I mean, I really love it. And yeah, check it out. Not the most famous AIP movie, not the most famous blaxploitation movie, but it's genuinely good. And I love this genre.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. I almost forgot one, Lauren. I'll be quick about it, though.
No problem.
So we got to go with Frozen Terror.
Okay. Nice.
Oh, I love that film.
Yeah, Jane and Fred with good head.
That's what she said.
Umberto Lenzi's first feature film, Mario Bava's son. People that don't know, man, this movie is batshit crazy. And I don't know. I'm sure everybody here seen Macabre, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You mean Lombardo Bava?
Lamberto Bava. I said Umberto Lenzi, didn't I?
Yeah.
Or Umberto Bava.
Anyway, his first film was about 20 years earlier.
Yeah. No, but so in the film, if you pay attention, you'll see a voodoo shrine. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go no further. But I've never heard anybody mention that, bring that up at all in the film. You'll see a voodoo shrine somewhere in the room. That's all I'm going to say about it. But man, the little girl in here, she's got this line. It's like, you're not even a fruitcake. I mean, the way these fucking Louisiana accents are just horrible, but they're fucking great at the same time. Check it out, man. Macabre is twisted, disturbing. There's a blind man trying to figure out what the fuck this woman's moaning about every night. You'll love it. I have a feeling. And Mario Bava did get to see this, and he pretty much said a great job to his son on this. So it's kind of a trip to know that Mario Bava saw this shit. Like, I don't know.
Passing the torch.
Yeah. Hell yeah. But anyway.
Awesome suggestions from everyone, really. If you haven't seen any of these films, check them out.
Yes. Yeah, man.
Except Cat People 1980.
Except for Cat People.
How big is this fucking facility? I've been walking in circles for hours. Whoa, boys. I have to get back to the region-free team and warn them about the super alien. Can't let you little kiddos slow me down. Sorry, this is going to hurt.
You hear something?
Something? No, like what?
Like rapid gunfire?
No, I definitely don't think I heard anything like rapid gunfire, but then it's hard to concentrate on anything but you.
You're a sweet zombie with alien DNA. You know that, Stone?
I guess it's just who I am now. I was completely different before that. AI toaster secreted that synthetic pathogen over my corpse and resurrected me as an undead hybrid killing machine.
What? A little recap of previous episodes? Never hurt anyone. Grow up, audience.
So this was a segment that I actually suggested, and it's one I actually wanted to do a while back, and then I forgot about it, which is a shame because my answer stayed the same the whole time. And that's directors who never made a horror film, but should have. Who wants to start off? Actually, Stone, you start off. I like that idea.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start off. Speaking of Malcolm McDowell, I actually a couple of years ago went to Denver to actually meet him. For the specific reason, so he could sign my original 1973 script of Oh Lucky Man, written by David Sherwin and directed by Lindsay Anderson. Lindsay Anderson was a British director, primarily famous for a trilogy of films where Malcolm McDowell plays a character named Mick Travis, although they're not necessarily connected to each other except in name only. And in 1968, Lindsay Anderson and Malcolm McDowell in his very first movie, this is the movie that Kubrick saw and cast him in Clockwork Orange, but it was a movie called If, which looks at these boarding school students and see if they're actually plotting a revolution against the teaching staff. And we don't know what is fantasy and what is reality with that. And there's a surreal nature that goes into the other two films, which are Oh Lucky Man and Britannia Hospital. Now, these are satires. To be perfectly honest, I mean, Oh Lucky Man is really an unofficial adaptation of Voltaire's Candide, where Malcolm McDowell, as a traveling coffee salesman, has these series of bizarre experiences all over England, including getting inside a government facility so he can make a little bit of money getting experimented on. And in one famous scene, he pulls back a curtain when he's lost in the hospital, and he sees like basically a sheep with a human male head attached to it. It's a pretty freaky image in what is essentially supposed to be just an epic comedy, which has these quotes like "violence and revolution are the only pure acts," and that revolution is the opium of intellectuals. And also in Britannia Hospital, the third film, it goes into all-out body horror in the last 15 minutes when Malcolm McDowell basically becomes like a Frankenstein monster. And they just pull him apart, gushing blood everywhere. It's really amazing. And I thought to myself, man, if only Lindsay Anderson had made a horror film, because unfortunately, outside of that, he only made a few kitchen sink dramas. One of his last films, actually, he worked with Lillian Gish and Betty Davis in a movie called The Whales of August. And it was surreal talking to him, because then he would start talking about Lindsay Anderson and him doing Betty Davis impressions.
Damn.
It was pretty interesting. So yeah, I wanted to throw Lindsay Anderson out there. I always try to get a chance to, but based on those two unforgettable scenes in Oh Lucky Man and Britannia Hospital, yeah, I think the man should have done a horror film, and I think it would have kicked ass, personally.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Darren?
Yeah, I've got two I can talk of briefly. The first one would be Asia Argento. Obviously the daughter, the Dario. She's made music videos. I think she's made like a Marilyn Manson music video. She's done TV work with Anthony Bourdain, who used to be her partner. and I think she did a documentary on Abel Ferrara as well. And I know, you know, all the controversy with the Me Too movement and what happened, you know, on a certain set.
The heart is deceitful, right?
Yeah, so she did that film, and pretty much the young boy in that she ended up sleeping with years later, and there was a big kind of kerfuffle about that. But one of my main reasons is not just because she's Dario's daughter, but I've seen a film called Scarlet Diva, which she directed. And I mean, like, you can tell she's got talent, you know, behind the camera.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, there's some great set pieces, and it's kind of a biography about her life as well.
She's hitting Weinstein in the balls in that movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she even goes as fast to do real sex scene on camera just to make it look authentic. But I just think once Dario, I hope Dario, you know, he's 80 odd now. I hope he lives till he's 100. But when he does kind of pass away, I'd like to think that maybe she would get on board and maybe give us a horror film and see how that goes. But there's that, The quick other one would have been Michelangelo Antonioni. So I've only seen 2 of his films, but I'll tell you why. So obviously there's Blow Up in 1966 that heavily influenced the giallo genre. I don't think you could quite call it horror. He did do one in 1960 called La Ventura, which again has got very much like a giallo kind of influence to it. I would love to have seen him make a full-on horror film. I haven't, like I say, I haven't seen much of his other stuff, but anything, you know, I have checked him out, and they're not horror films anyway. So yeah, I'm thinking he would have been great as well. One that everyone might think or might have on their list, I don't know, is Clint Eastwood as well. And obviously he come close with, you know, he done like that Stalker film back in the early 70s, Play Misty for Me. Yeah, I think the Beguiled has got close. Beguiled has got like horror elements. And he did the 2 Dirty Harry films as well. So, I mean, he's not
flirted with it for sure.
Magnum Force, I'd say too.
I love Magnum Force. Yeah. So yeah, they did a quick 3, I would say.
Yeah.
As an addendum to your great pick of Michael Antonioni, I like 2 of his films in particular that nobody talks about. Zabriskie Point from 1970, and also a movie with Jack Nicholson that came out the same year as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest called The Passenger, where he plays a journalist on location in Chad who just takes over this British guy's identity when he finds him dead in the next hotel room.
Damn.
It's very, very fascinating. And Nicholson, he loved that movie so much, he bought the rights from the studio so he could release it on physical media with his own audio commentary. That's how much he loves that movie and is proud of working with Michael Antonioni. So yeah, great pick right there.
Dan.
So I went a little recent with my picks, or somewhat recent. I feel like these are some names that could hammer out a classic if they really wanted to, and I have enjoyed their non-genre films. But I'm going with the Safdie brothers, who, of course, even though Uncut Gems is the one that kind of blew up, I feel like it's not my favorite movie that they've done. Good Time is amazing. They have an eye for visuals. I feel like if they get the right script, they have that awesome horror movie in them. But Heaven Knows What, which is the kind of like their first major movie. And when you watch that film, which is about heroin addicts, heroin addicts that were still heroin addicts are just coming down from it. You really, I think, see it in that film. It's like, give these guys a horror movie. You watch it, and the lead actress, Ariel Holmes, who I know has been kind of trying to break out. She hasn't fully done it yet. She was in American Honey, and she kind of unfortunately drops off a little bit after that. But they just found her And they found her on the street and cast her in this movie, and just absolutely heartbreaking and obviously authentic in this case. And I look at Good Time and that film in particular, and I'm like, these guys need to make a genre picture. I love their work. I think that we will get it, because I can't imagine that there aren't projects that have floated their way, particularly after Uncut Gems blew up. But that's one. I would also throw out, obvious reasons, Denis Villeneuve. I think that's someone that would hammer something out. I know somebody's going to say Tarantino, but and I'll let you dive into it more if you will, but I don't know. No. I kind of feel like, is he even going to be able to just make a slasher film or a women in prison film and, not
Isn't Death Proof a horror film, though?
I wouldn't consider. I mean, I guess you could make a case for it being a slasher.
I guess
I've heard people call it a slasher. I've never seen it as a slasher.
Yeah, I'm not really
it as a
counting
complete
it.
movie.
Yeah, I'm not counting that one. He's not my top pick, though. I don't know. I know Cliff Booth in the chat would probably disagree. Because I'd love to see it. My last pick, the Coen brothers. I'd be curious what that would look like.
They kind of almost. They came very close with.
They have
No Country for sure.
Yeah. They have, and they've flirted with it, and I would like to just see them go for just a full on horror project, and just to see what that would look like. But the Safdie brothers could become major genre directors if they wanted to.
Considering the Coen brothers co-wrote Crime Wave for Raimi, it's not even very far from almost having happened.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what that would look like. And I know, Cliff mentions Tarantino said a true horror movie would never come out of his pen. I think he would just honestly just say, fuck it, I'll just make a women in prison movie and just go for that. But Safdie brothers, keep an eye out, and maybe we'll revisit this podcast and topic if it does happen. But that's my main pick.
Okay,
Dirk.
All right, man. I got to go with, and it's just this one film. Because of this one film, he's gone now, so it'll never happen anyway. But it's George Sluizer, The Vanishing. This film is truly terrifying, and don't watch the American remake. Watch the Dutch version, because in his own words, he said the American remake, he made the film or whatever, they edited it, and he said they took his film and turned it into a cartoon, right? But man, it's so bleak, it's so dark, it's one of the worst fears. I mean, Stanley Kubrick even said it's the most terrifying film he ever seen. The idea of losing a loved one, the one person you love the most, you don't know what happened to him. And then the abductor reaches out 3 years later and is like, do you want to experience what they experienced? You have to go through what they went through, kind of shit. And I was looking through his other filmography. I haven't seen a lot of those other films, but they're all really dark, bleak. He's got a crime thriller, home invasion shit going on. I feel like he would have been awesome to make but he said he wasn't interested. I mean, but he said, I like the silence before the storm. He's not interested in gore or cheap jump scares, but he definitely had the dark themes, the isolation, the suspense, the obsession of that entered these characters, especially in The Vanishing. You can see it big time, man. It's I can't put him over enough, and that's his masterpiece in my opinion. So George Sluizer, again, highly recommend this one. Y'all check it out. Anybody hasn't seen it?
Very cool.
Awesome.
For myself, and this is going to probably be a little bit surprising, only because it's not an obscure name or it's not something pulled out of a hat. Michael Cimino.
Oh, okay.
New Hollywood was a movement that brought the 70s up to film into that weird area between commercial viability and fine art. But it was the first time really that films were being made in America for adults. And Cimino was definitely part of that. I mean, Deer Hunter is a masterpiece. And it's also unconventional in many ways. It's a war film that doesn't focus on the war side of it, but the damage the wars do to a person. And it doesn't do it in a cartoonish way at all. The Russian roulette scenes are intense and dangerous. They're difficult to watch. They are a horror movie in their own way. But you couldn't call The Deer Hunter a horror movie. You couldn't call Year of the Dragon a horror movie, though I think you could make a strong case that everything in that film is a terrifying vision of what American crime in cities could look like. Even Desperate Hours, I think,
man. Yeah.
Right? That intensity, that ability, but also that unconventional choices, which is something horror films, if they're going to actually work and be like and work for generations, has to have. If you just make the easy move in a horror movie all the time, it won't endure very long. It'll get your reaction today, but in 20 years, no one will remember your movie. It takes that really broad stroke that's way outside the lines. And the analogy I always have made for Cimino is that when I watch his stuff, besides Heaven's Gate, the intensity doesn't end at the waterline. And what I mean by that is that in most movies, you're told something bad is going to happen. The music starts to swell. We get up to the thing where the thing happens, and then it happens, and we cut to a scene somewhere else, and the aftermath is left, I don't know, to be resolved by a line of dialogue somewhere or by a character's facial reaction. Cimino never let us off the hook that way. He lingers. It's like he's holding us under that water 1 second longer than we really are comfortable being without breath. I know a lot of people think that his stuff has a sort of jingoism to it, which is weird because, on the other hand, he's like Deer Hunter is about the most anti-war thing you could make. But there was he gets accused of xenophobia quite a lot, and even did then. I'm not talking like modern, like not the last 10 years. Even back in the 70s, he was accused of it. And I think that there's a certain level of, I don't know, masquerading in those claims, because I don't think that he would have changed anything if he'd set Deer Hunter in the Korean War or in World War II and they were Germans. I think he was going for the relevant war that had just been over a few years earlier. And so I don't think there's any real xenophobia necessarily built into it. But the idea of these three men from a small town being torn apart emotionally and psychically, if you will, by the horrors of war, to the point where you're willing to revisit the worst thing that ever happened to you because you don't know anything else. Horrifying. Yeah. There's a horror movie there. In all of his work. And by the way, if you haven't seen Year of the Dragon or haven't seen it in many years, please revisit that movie.
I love Year of the Dragon.
Fucking good.
Yeah.
I want to say I've seen it. I know I've seen Deer Hunter for sure.
Revisit all his whole catalog, really, except Heaven's Gate, and you're gonna be fine. Unfortunately, Heaven's Gate ended pretty much the movement of New Hollywood. It was a fantastic failure at the box office. The critics tore it apart because they didn't like him. Cimino always had a tough time getting fair reviews anyway. They tore it apart because they spilled blood in the water. It's not as bad a film as its reputation, but it's not great.
Yeah.
And the truth is, Hollywood went from hey, you have a challenging film that has commercial prospects for adults, to, hey, can Spielberg make us another E.T.? What about another Star Wars movie? Hey, Jim Cameron, add a fucking pluralize a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And those three gentlemen really took the whole movement, right? So New Hollywood was all about like The Godfather and Brian De Palma coming out and Cimino. And then we replaced them with kids movie directors like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and, yes, Jim Cameron. There's nothing particularly adult about any of those filmmakers. Now, let's be fair. Spielberg has made some adult-themed movies, his war stuff and his political thrillers. But I mean, come on. That's not what made his bones, and that's not what Hollywood really wants from him. They tolerate it. I mean, yeah, they're happy they made Schindler's List, but if they would have gotten another E.T. or even another Ready Player One, they'd turn to that any day of the week.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think that Cimino was one of those guys that ran out of time. You know, he might have made that horror movie. He might have. But Hollywood turned their back on exactly the only thing he was interested in. And I think that's one of the great tragedies of the early 80s.
Yeah. And it's funny that that Magnum Force was brought up earlier because he actually co-wrote that with John Milius.
Yep. What can you imagine being in that room?
Jesus, Palomino! Milius said that a lot anyway.
Consider this to be rumor control. Last night, a facility worker named Orc was killed during routine maintenance of a ventilation tunnel in the complex's east wing. It seems he ran headfirst into a oscillating fan.
I thought you said that the aliens killed everyone who lived here months ago.
That's true. They tore the men, women, and children apart. The pets disappeared thereafter. Then they turned their sights on the service droids, then the coffee makers, microwave ovens, and vending machines.
Then how the hell do they miss this Orc guy?
Maybe he hid in the vents like Darren and I.
I'd really rather go back in the vents, actually. I felt safer there.
Could be. Or maybe you shouldn't look too deep into plot holes like that.
Heads up, kids. We have a super alien on its way here right now. Guns up.
Dan, you're alive.
Ah, this could get messy. Oscillating fan.
Dan looks so good in the suit, man.
We haven't seen the last of Orc, I suspect. I don't know.
There's no ending to the Orc.
Yeah.
So our final topic of the night is another one that I love. It's about our favorite and least favorite TV cuts of movies. You don't have to have both necessarily, but if you do, we'd love to hear them. And in the chat, scream them out, because I know that most of us probably are of an age that the first time we encountered a lot of movies was on television. We're not really talking about just like versions that had the nudity or the exercised or the violence trimmed or dialogue replaced, but versions that are actually different. Like they used alternative takes. Sometimes they rearranged movies. Sometimes entire subplots got added back in that had been cut for the theatricals. This is really how I discovered a lot of movies. So it's still to this day kind of weird for me to watch certain films and not see the television print.
Yeah.
Anyone have a favorite or a least favorite you want to scream?
The least favorite would definitely be Stephen King's The Shining. I mean, out the gate. I got a shit all over it right out the gate. So
it's been a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be the worst ever, in my opinion. But,
I struggled a little bit with this one because obviously I saw a lot of TV cuts back in the day that were different. I mean, Universal in particular was kind of known for that. And I don't know if anybody remembers the Problem Child movies. Never thought those would come up on Region Free, I bet. But the first two Problem Child movies were radically different. There's a lot in those cuts that on TV that were just so different from the versions that we would see later on video and everything. And I don't know that they ever fixed that. I never picked up the new Blu-rays, so I don't know if any of that kind of made it back in, but they were worth going out of your way to watch those TV cuts. Horror wise, I do recall The Swarm from 78.
Oh, yes.
I recall like a good half hour to 40 minutes of like different shit in the TV version of that for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that stuck out. It's been so long I couldn't like break it down for you how different it was. Because even for somebody like me, you know, most of these movies now I've watched whatever the, you know, definitive and available cuts are. Maybe not definitive in some cases. But I think the ultimate one, and it's ironic because Cheech Marin has two things that would fall on this list. Born in East LA, that has very different for the TV version. But Cheech and Chong's next movie, if you watch that, there are several extended and alternate scenes, dialogue, music. The alien stuff that's in the TV, the TV cut of that. I think there's footage from The Thing that they put in there for that, the alien bit. Been years since I saw it, but those are good examples, and I don't know if those versions are kind of readily available, if some of them made it to the physical media for some of these movies, but I am interested in hearing some of your guys because Lauren's a little bit older, so you might remember some of them a little bit better. But only last one I have that came to mind is When Time Ran Out from 1980. Yeah, the Paul Newman volcano movie. I know that TV cut was also significantly different, and Cliff Booth, I haven't seen, if you put it in the chat already, Fistful of Dollars. That had a very notorious TV cut that they were very pissed about because it was not good. But I'm curious because it's I struggled with this one a little bit to remember specifics.
Darren.
And my favorite I can't mention because somebody else is going to mention.
Okay.
Okay.
Darren, I'm very interested in like the UK perspective on this because I mean the much more limited television channels back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main reasons I'm here today is because of this one film. So take us back to like, and I knew like the UK used to get all the American stuff like 2 years later back in the day. So a certain, we got we rented our first front loader, top loader VHS. I'm talking 1981.
Yeah.
And we kept getting these adverts on telly for this certain film, and it was Salem's Lot, and it was a TV version of Salem's Lot. And it changed my life completely because it showed me, what a horror film could do. And I think it was the first ever horror film I ever seen. But it was played over 2 nights. I remember recording it, on the second night you get the recap of the first night and all that was in. And I have gone on to watch the theatrical version, which I don't think is as good as the TV cut. But yeah, I'll always remember it, because I don't even think my dad allowed us, like me and my sisters who are a little bit older than me, to stay up and watch it. That's why we recorded it. But for the next year, and we played that tape out, man. I'm surprised looking back at it, my parents actually let me watch that at such a young age as well. But that's got a high kind of place in my heart. Have you heard of a prison film called Scum?
Yeah.
From 1979.
Yeah, I have a copy. I still need to check it out.
Oh, man, right? So there's 2 versions. The TV version is kind of a watered-down version. It was almost like a play. It still touches on some of the violence, but not as much. Because that was so successful on TV, they went and made the film version. The film version's got like 80% of the actors still the same, but it ramps up the violence, the racism, there's male rape, there's all sorts, because we used to have a thing in the UK called Borstal, where you're too young to go in an adult prison, but you're too old. Do you know what I mean? Between the ages of, say, 15 and 17, maybe. And that hits hard. the film version of that compared to the TV versions, like night and day. And another one I want to mention, but I think, you know, I know people have mentioned this all the time, is The Exorcist. So we were lucky enough to get that before it got banned, because it literally got banned for 20 years in the UK. I managed to see it early on VHS, but when it did come back, it was like one of the worst like cinematic like I've ever had. Me and my girlfriend went in to see it in the cinema, and all the youngsters around us, all they did was laugh at The Exorcist, and it was the proper, you know, full, you know, theatrical version. But the reason I'm bringing it up as well, because they showed it on UK TV as well, minus obviously the crucifix scene and all the swearing's gone, and like it just completely broke my heart. But and that was only like 2000, I think, that became you know, uncut in the UK.
That's always
like
tripped me out too,
20
because
years.
when that 2000 come out, like the shit that was cut out wasn't as bad as that crucifix scene. Like,
right,
I
yeah,
never
exactly.
did understand that shit.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, The Exorcist as well is probably one of the reasons we're all here too. But yeah, there's my three.
Yeah.
Stone.
Well, interestingly enough, I was going to mention that I do have the theatrical version of Salem's Lot, which is about 103 minutes. It cuts about an hour out, but it kind of ups the violence up just a tiny bit. It's really bizarre. It's not as good as the TV version, I think. But when I first became aware of like alternate TV cuts, it was really because of the original Christopher Reeve Superman films. And, you know, rest in peace, Gene Hackman, of course.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting. The original Superman film, when they showed that on TV, they put back like 49 minutes of footage. Everything from more Lana Lang footage to the original Superman and Lois Lane from the 50s and the serials. They had cameos in the film. And Superman 2 and 3, they did the same thing. Well, Superman 4 is the most notorious because they cut out a half hour with another nuclear man.
Yeah.
Originally, it was supposed to have 2 nuclear men. My favorite is still in Superman 2, though, when the villains are destroying this small town. And if you remember from the theatrical version, there's this young kid there who is watching everything. In the TV cut, he actually jumps on his bike so he can go get help. And Non kills him. And one of the spectators is like, he was just a boy. And Ursa says, who will never be a man. So, I mean, look, and also the most notorious when I was growing up, more than one adult told me, whatever you do, do not watch Clute on commercial television, because they eliminate an entire sequence that helps Donald Sutherland solve the mystery. Yeah, and like any movie that has like any like, you know, language or anything, they're gonna put in some horrible dubbing in there. I mean, like the most infamous, the one I find most offensive, is in Used Cars when they say Jesus Christ. They loop it so he says cheese and rice.
Right.
I mean, what the fuck, man? Nobody says that shit.
Cheese and rice.
Cheese and rice.
I'm glad you mentioned.
I've never seen it. I could imagine French Connection would have got cut pretty hard.
That's been cut recently, I think. But I'm glad you mentioned Clute, because I love that film. I think
I
that's
recently
kind of
just
forerunner to the Giallo. Yeah,
was that like a couple years ago? I saw Clute for the first time, I think.
Yeah, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, the 2 films that I saw originally as television cuts that I can't exercise those versions out of my head. One of them is going to be like easy for you guys to figure out and fun, and that's Jaws 2. The helicopter attack in Jaws 2's theatrical is brief and almost laughable because it's so abrupt. But in the television cut, we actually get this underwater sequence, whereas the helicopter pilot is trying to get out of the helicopter, and the Bruce 2 actually basically covers the exit with his mouth and the guy is basically falling through gravity, much like Robert Shaw in the original film, into the shark's mouth. And it's a much more brutal sequence. I have no idea why it's not in the theatrical, because it works like a bitch. It's awesome. And that moment in Jaws 2 is so great because it's like you know that the movie can't end without Brody being the one to come confront the shark. But by the same rate, you're like, this helicopter pilot is going to get at least some of these kids out of here. Because what is going to happen? You weren't expecting a film that's fairly grounded, especially compared to the next two Jaws sequels, to pull the shark's saying to pull the helicopter under the water out of its ass, right? It's the big funny big moment. And I've always said, like, Jaws 2 is my Jaws movie. It's not better than the original, but fuck you, I'm going to watch Jaws 2 more than I watch Jaws going forward.
I don't know about.
You don't like Cocaine Quaid? 3?
Is that Lorne? Is that seen on the new releases of the film, Jaws 2?
It's a bonus feature on the Blu-ray, but it's not reinserted into the film.
Okay, I've never seen it. I'll have to check that out.
I don't think it's been upgraded to HD properly, but it's there.
Right.
To me, I don't have a problem with a Jaws sequel going big for a scene, you know? And it's not ludicrous. Like, what they present, a shark of that size probably could do. Unlike what happens in Jaws 3 and 4. But then, the truth is, like, the original Jaws is a great, great, great film.
You can't recapture Jaws.
I have seen it so many times, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what more I'm going to get from watching it many more times. I will see it more times. I won't avoid it, but Jaws 2 puts this big fucking smear of a smile on my face every time. Roy Scheider is fantastic in the film. It feels like the first film, but it feels like a slightly dumber, more carefree version of it. I love the movie, and I just kind of wish that the television version was like the version more people knew, to be honest with you, because I don't think you lose anything really out of that cut. It's not a film. It's not a gore fest of a film to begin with.
Hey, Lorne, does that television cut have the scene with the mayor changing his vote at the last second, or is that just deleted footage?
That is just deleted. I've never seen that back in the film.
I wish that was back in the film.
So, have you read the novelization by Hank Sears?
No.
That scene is even longer in the novelization. So apparently on the screenplay page, it was a much more robust scene at that point. Hank Sears deserves a lot of fucking credit. Okay. His Jaws 2 novelization is great. His Jaws 4 novelization tries to salvage that fucking thing. It doesn't do it. It doesn't do it. But he tries like a motherfucker. So I would say read Hank Sears if you love Jaws.
Michael Caine got a Rolls Royce though, right?
He got a house. He got a house.
Yeah, I got a house.
Didn't get to show up for Hannah to get his Oscar for Hannah and his sisters, but he got a house. Which, to be honest with you, I think it was the right move.
Yeah.
Kudos to Michael Caine for having a sense of humor about some of the movies he did.
Oh
that,
yeah,
you know.
And to quote him from The Swarm, I just don't understand about the bees. They've always been our friends.
The other movie, and this is the one that people are probably going to be less forgiving of me, because I think Jaws 2 is just a fun movie, and I think people are good with it. But the other one is a favorite of the community, and I don't know how they're going to feel about this, but The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
The television cut of John Carpenter's The Thing has this voiceover in the beginning which introduces the characters. And a lot of people really hate that voiceover. But I grew up watching a VHS recording of The Thing, which had it. And it goes through the characters like Childs. You know, he works the radio. And it would be, to me, it's certainly about as blunt as a hammer, right? It's not elegant. It's not careful. But it doesn't feel wrong either. And it was done very artfully because they didn't change the movie to add it. They added it to the movie. So as the camera pans from character to character, we get a little bit about each of them. I don't think it hurts the movie. It's how I remember seeing it originally. like it. Also, and this is where it gets probably a little bit for people. I don't mind that some of the creature effects is trimmed. Because you want to know what? I actually think The Thing is a really strong movie. And I think the special effects tend to be what we talk about in the movie.
But
it's a great ensemble.
Well, for me, it's the paranoia.
Exactly. It almost I love the Rob Bottin special effects. Don't get me wrong, but it almost does it a disservice to the rest of the movie because that's all anyone talks about. That's all anyone really wants to talk about. And I think the movie's strong. I think that the concept is great. I think the paranoia ramps up properly. I think that the clues to the final mystery of it are there, but unresolved in just the perfect
it still leaves it.
Well, you have to. It's a movie about paranoia. If you resolve it completely, you're undercutting yourself.
That's good.
There's enough clues there. I mean, watch the computer chess scene closely. It's a very important scene for the thematics of the end of the film. There's enough there that you can pretty much piece it together if you want, but I'm not going to lie to you. I think in a way that there's a cut of that movie that's not as special effects heavy. That's probably powerful in a completely different way. And probably would have been a lot more respected and probably more successful at the box office if that had been the version that was released. I wouldn't trade The Thing for the world. Don't get me wrong. Don't get angry about someone dare criticizing one of John Carpenter's classics. What I'm saying is if the special effects hadn't worked, which was a real possibility, happened to a lot of movies, I think the movie would have been okay if they had to cut them out. And I think the television cut kind of gives you a little bit of hint there. Although a lot of those special effects are still there. A shocking amount made it into the television cut.
I mean, the special effects are a master class, but yeah, the movie is strong enough that you could lose some of that, and I still think it's a classic.
Do you think like the dog's head splitting open like a banana actually aids the movie in any substantive? It's a great special effect. It's a great moment. It's shocking.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, we love that scene, obviously.
I think if you just had the sounds and the dogs trying so desperately to escape the cage that they're biting holes in the chain link fence, I think that's all you need, to be honest. I love the special effects are there. I love the movie we have. But I also appreciate the fact that had the special effects not worked, it would still be a classic. And that's kind of what you learn from this cut.
Yeah. Interesting to watch that again. It's been a long time.
Unfortunately, that cut is not, I think, anywhere.
I would imagine it's got to be online somewhere.
Well, yeah, you're probably
somebody's got it on eBay on a VHS.
Yeah,
on my tape, they found it somewhere.
There are some of these though that are getting hard to find. I mean, some of the non-horror stuff I referenced earlier, it's not as easy to find some of those versions.
I think it's a different experience. Like those of us who grew up mainly with the UHF, what I consider the UHF era of discovering exploitation movies, that was different than the people who grew up with the VCRs already in the households.
Mm.
And it's different in the post-blockbuster era of all streaming. Like people who grew up with that, it's different too. There's more of a uniformity to what people have watched because some people saw movies back in the day in theater. Some of them saw television. Some saw VHS cuts, which were, they were not letterboxed. They were altered versions, even so. But everyone saw these films in different ways, and we had the impressions that came through. I think were the essence of the movie came through, no matter which version you saw. Today, everyone's kind of getting the same versions of movies, and you're getting the pure version. There's a benefit of that, but socially, I think there's also kind of a risk there that if we're all having too similar of an experience, that we get groupthink going, and then no one's allowed to have a different opinion. I don't know. So I don't mind having grown up when I did, when you'd see a television version of a horror movie, and then see it on VHS a couple years later, and be like, "Oh, that's all the shit that wasn't in it," and then. Then
you had to wait.
Blu-ray comes out with and Blu-ray comes out with a version many years later, or Laserdisc does, and you see it in widescreen. You're like, "Oh fuck, it's big." This was my Alien experience. You know, Aliens is in my top 10 films of all time, as you might have guessed, since I'm basing the whole fucking season of this show on it. But, you know, the first time I saw that was on television. Obviously, stuff, you know what was missing? You know what was missing?
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw it on video VHS, and I was like, oh my God. When I bought that Laserdisc, the big chunky box set Laserdisc with 3 discs, and one of them was in CAV format, holy shit. I was like, I never realized the design of this film looked like this. And then they started re-releasing it to theaters, seeing it on the big screen, although altered again. But, you know, Alien has stayed with me, and I wonder if I'd only ever seen one version of Alien from beginning to end, if I'd feel quite the same way. It feels like that movie has evolved with me.
So would you prefer to go back and never have the pristine cut now?
No, I'd prefer exactly the experience I was able to experience. I feel sad for people. If you're 15 years younger than me, I feel like you're getting robbed of part of the reason people always have loved movies. The rarity of not having everything at your fingertips made you want to appreciate movies. Part of the joy of going to a theater to see a movie back in the day was it was an event. This is the biggest part of your month in a lot of cases, was that trip to the theater.
And you may not get that other.
Or the TV guide, right? You're waiting for shit, looking at the TV guide.
Absolutely. Or even VHS era, it wasn't so bad because not any store near you had every movie.
Yeah, and they might all be checked out for a fucking month.
Absolutely. But the point is, you didn't want to go in cynically and say, okay, I'm going to click on that thumbnail, and if this movie sucks, I'm going to turn it off after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was not in your vocabulary.
Or let me see what this asshole says about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, I hate the fact that if you dare like something that people don't like, whether we're talking Alien 3 or whether we're talking about, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you dare champion a film that, generally speaking, is hated, they'll tear you up online.
Yeah.
And what does anyone gain from that? And vice versa. If you hate a film that everyone else loves, Pariahville. Well, what is that about? Like back when there was very limited ways for fans to talk to each other, you could have engaging conversations about how you had differences of opinion. In the comment, Barney Loves Beer is saying Invasion of the Body Snatcher 78 was another great Paranoia movie. He's fucking right. And I love 78 more than I love the original.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will talk, and you know I'm a golden age guy, but I will talk every day passionately about both versions' strengths and weaknesses with a fan that wants to engage, right? Because that's fun. That's what I want this channel always to be, is the conversations that we don't walk in lockstep.
Yeah, not the get along gang and shit. You know?
We want more of the versus streams. We do. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So that people can really hate me.
No, not at all, man. I think you gained a lot of respect, to be honest, because when Alpha Romero come on, and we're going to be on his show next week, I think, like, I've seen him in your chats as well. I think he respects you, man.
Yeah.
I would hope that the thing is, I think that for too long, just because there was a shortcut, these are the good movies, these are the bad movies. And people just kind of like, whether it was really their honest, genuine opinion or not, they went with it because it was the easy way. Hey, I don't want to alienate anyone who likes what I like because I want to make friends.
Right.
But you know what? That's not how you make friends. That's how how people tolerate you for a while, then ghost you. If they really want to be your friends, they find your point of view interesting. And so, like, maybe if we all just spend a moment to figure out why we love what we love, and that's what we're talking about, maybe we're better off. I don't know. I didn't know Dan forever. I consider Dan to be a very damn good friend of mine. We don't agree on everything. You tend to see a lot of agreement from us because we do have a lot of the same perspective. But there's areas where we disagree massively.
You're not a full moon guy.
I'm not a full moon guy. Keep your fucking world, okay? Robot Jocks, not a good film. Sorry, kids.
Better than the Transformers movies.
I'm not sure that's true.
I will die on that hill.
And you might have to.
Arena's better than Rocky. Sorry, Orc, if you're still watching.
Orc, we hope you're still watching. Okay, we have one little thing before we go, guys. if I can master the technology.
Shit, it's here.
You guys go, I've got this. Oh, fuck, I don't got this.
Hell yeah.
To be continued. Any final words, guys?
Go see Rule of Jenny Penn if you can. I know it's getting towards the end of the cycle.
Damn, that shit really got a hold of you there.
Yeah.
It's really
Lorne, I just want to quickly show this off I got in today. I don't know if you can pick it up. Don't Torture a Duckling.
Motherfucker, man.
4K, I'm waiting
yet.
to pop this one.
Excellent.
You should be getting yours soon. But...
Hopefully.
I should have got mine in. So, fuck.
That's always the movie I point to people when they want to portray Fulci as kind of like, his movies don't make sense, and he's just like, it's sloppy and something. I'm like, watch Don't Torture a Duckling.
Exactly.
It's one of the tight. It's not a short film, but it's one of the tightest giallos out there. It just is.
It'll probably always be my favorite Fulci. I got it on Blu-ray. I was going to say real quick, fuck the Leprechaun movies. If you're going to watch a horror movie on St. Patrick's Day, check out Grabbers.
Oh yeah, good pick.
Yeah, check out Grabbers. This is an awesome movie. And finally, just to show these off real quick, just because I just bought them, two of the best films of last year. Finally got The Substance and Nosferatu, and going to be enjoying those.
Nosferatu, man. I've already seen it 3 times.
It's awesome.
I fucking love that damn movie. And the
great.
The extra footage it's only 4 minutes, but it does make up a difference. I did get this shit in. I need to check it out. It's I'll say it again. Lamberto Bava. Master Secret. So need to check that shit out. So
I need to get that one as well.
Yeah, but I've heard nothing but great shit about it. If you're an Italian horror,
that's a Black Sunday remake, isn't it? Kind of what he did. Yeah,
loosely.
Very loosely, but yeah.
But yeah, man, this is awesome. Good.
On the channel, most likely on Tuesday evening, I'll be joined by Tucker Christine, editor of Dracula Beyond, which just got nominated for a Rondo Haddon Award. He'll be on the channel on a one-on-one with me, doing a Visit by Voices live. I know that's been a long time coming since we did one. I just wanted to throw that out there, that your next hit of the channel will be very short. Anyone else have anything else?
We're doing Alice, Sweet Alice this coming Sunday. So
nice.
Be doing a deep dive on that one. So
it's well deserved deep dive.
Yeah, that's one of Darren's favorites. It's pretty high tier for me too, and
it's a great movie.
One of the first slashers I ever saw, for sure. So.
Dan, what you got coming up on Flesh Wound?
We've got a lot dropping as always. Flesh Wound features here on YouTube. I know we've got some After Dark dropping this week, and I think a couple other drops. But yeah, Wednesday we'll be reviewing Opus and several other things that are escaping me at the moment.
Stone, when can we expect another 60 minutes?
Probably in a couple weeks. It'll be before April.
Excellent. Dirk, Darren, anything else on the table?
We're doing a show with Alfa Romero a week Saturday. And that's going to be on Martin, I think, is one of the films.
We're covering all the the Argento films that were made.
They had a link, yeah, with
Romero.
Romero. You got Two Evil Eyes as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
nice. Yeah.
Excellent. Check it all out, guys, and hope you all have a great rest of your month. We will see you in 30 days.
Oh yeah, man.
Internal log 0613-2024. The ship is a twisted mass of wreckage on the surface of an unmapped moon outside the boundaries of any charted system. The crew are dead. With any luck, this transmission will be picked up by the YouTube algorithm. And notifications will be sent, but who knows? This is Customer Service Specialist Sam, last survivor of the commercial data mining ship Apurion. Signing off. Good night.